at this point in the night, with still a lot of votes to be counted, are ahead of the 40-vote threshold they needed to be at in Quebec. Now, Ontario, a lot of votes being counted, slightly different story. They are at 69 seats of the 122. They are down 6 right now. You're seeing some movement here in the GTA seats that have been the stronghold of the Liberals. Oops, I didn't mean to click on Kitchener, but they're doing well in Kitchener. But there's only about 11% of the vote counted in Ontario. And again, this is going to be a pattern throughout the night with the Liberal vote. They are widely believed by all the campaigns, we've heard this from Conservatives as well, to have outperformed their opponents in the advance vote, and in a lot of cases that comes in last. So while they're at 150 seats there right now, the last time I checked, there were still about a dozen seats that we were waiting on results for that all the campaigns believe are going to go Liberal. So you can bear that in mind as a reason why we have not yet ruled out the possibility of a Liberal majority government. In Manitoba, we had set the threshold at 6 for them to be on the path for majority. They're right at 6 right now. They've got 2 pickups. They're leading right now in Winnipeg West, which was a Conservative seat. They are not leading in Winnipeg Centre, but they have picked up, or at least leading in the Northern Manitoba riding right now. In Saskatchewan, we said 1. All they needed was 1. Well, guess what? It looks like they have 1. They're up there. They're leading right now in Desnete. That's Buckley Boulanger, as Ian was telling us. They're nowhere right now in the Saskatoon ridings, though Mark Carney did go there, and Saskatoon University was a riding that the Liberals had talked about as a potential gain for them. They've held right now 2 of their 3 in the north. Nunavut is still trending NDP. I don't want to ruin the NDP's night, but they are no longer ahead in Wetaskiwin, as we predicted earlier. But right now, the Liberals do have 2 seats in Alberta, and they're both in Calgary right now. So Calgary and McKnight, where George Chahal was the incumbent, and Calgary Centre, which was on their target list. They're leading there now. They are not ahead in Edmonton. That is where they had 1 seat. That was Randy Boissonneau's seat in Edmonton Centre. That is blue right now in Edmonton Strathcona. Maybe the safest NDP seat around. We don't have results from that yet. So with a lot still to come, Rosie, in Vancouver area in particular, the Liberals right now, they only have 8 in BC, but look at this, right? We got a lot to come, but of the 8 that are reporting, the Liberals have 3 pickups, and we're still not fully in to the Vancouver core and the suburbs there, and that is the Liberal stronghold of British Columbia. So they're at 155 right now at this point in time. There's still upside growth there for them. You can see a path to the delta of 17 that they need, and it might actually include Delta, which is a seat they hold on the Lower Mainland.
Yeah. Okay, so let me tell you part of the reason why that is there too. Was there a joke there that I missed that I was supposed to?
Yeah, I was talking about deltas and deltas, you know,
okay,
like sort
sorry.
of thing. Don't worry,
I got a lot of people talking to me. That was a funny one. Thank you.
Sure.
There are 47 ridings still where the vote is under 100. So that gives you a sense of why we are still holding off in determining what kind of government this is. But as David rightly points out, it is still possible, and we'll show you more about that in a moment. And just because I have a lot of good colleagues who heard me, the only other Prime Minister to hold a seat in the Ottawa area was John A. Macdonald. So Mark Carney becomes number 2. Ian, over to you.
So interesting things happening in British Columbia in terms of the vote. And let's look at the vote change so far in the province of British Columbia. And you see both the Conservatives and the Liberals up. Liberals up by 15 percentage points. And who is down? Well, no surprise. The NDP, almost 16 percentage points. And in some of the ridings, you can see the impact of that. Let's take a look at Kelowna. Kelowna is really interesting because if you look at what happened to the NDP support there, at least as of right now, it was 18% in 2021. It's down to 2.7%. And it seems to be going to both the Conservatives and the Liberals. The Liberals right now in the lead, the incumbent in second place. Let's take a look at Okanagan Lake West, South Kelowna. There, the NDP support has gone from 18.9 percentage points to 5.5. Now, super early, but still interesting to note and to keep an eye on. And now Richmond East, Steveston, this is another riding that kind of shows what's happened to the NDP support. It's gone from 19% in 2021 to 3.7%. Both the Liberals and Conservatives up. It looks like the Conservatives in Richmond East, Steveston might be benefiting more from that drop in NDP support than the Liberals are. But throughout British Columbia. We said this hours ago. I mean, maybe it was yesterday. I'm not sure. But anyway, hours ago.
We haven't been here since yesterday, to be fair.
That way,
yeah,
though.
I know.
Anyway, what would happen to NDP support? Would it drop? It seems to be doing that in British Columbia and in a province where the Liberals and Conservatives are so competitive in so many ridings. Who will benefit the most from that? Still very much in flux, but they both seem to be benefiting.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so let's get another part of that story, and that's to look at whether a majority is still possible here as we wait to make a firm call on what kind of government Canada has chosen. So here you go again. This is back to the House of Commons. All those red seats there, leading and elected. So that gets you up to 157. Now we're going to add incumbents to come. Those are the pink seats. That is 9. So they need to hold the 157 they have, gain 9, and they are still under 6, not quite reaching a majority so far with those numbers. But let me give you another little piece of information that is relevant as we think about whether this is going to be a majority government, and that is that there are 44 ridings where the margin is 100 votes or less, and in 24 of the Liberals are in second place, meaning that there is still a possibility that they could flip some of those ridings and indeed get over that threshold of 172. And that also tells you why we're not saying anything just yet, because there's a lot still in flux here. It's possible, but it's getting a little bit harder for the Liberals to get there, and they're going to have to work a lot harder in these other ridings and these counts in order to make it. Let's go to Adrian now, who has some results.
You bet. You're talking about tiny margins. You're talking about areas the Liberals want to flip. Let's look at some of those. Let's start with Kitchener Centre. You are not seeing green on the map on the bar at the bottom because Mike Morris is trailing by 33. Just 3 out of 213 polls reporting. That's the very thing Rosie's been talking about. Let's look at another one. Hamilton Centre. Again, the NDP wanted to hang on to that. Liberals are leading with 55, just 55. One last. Another one that's tiny margin. That is Niagara South, and that is a riding that would have flipped to the Conservatives in redistribution. The Liberals are holding it with just 22. Only one poll reporting there, Rosie.
Okay, so some of those early results you're seeing, some of those tight places. Oh, I think you've got one more elected
I do.
here.
Well, look at that, and that's a big one to miss. That is Leslie Church, projected elected in Toronto St. Paul's. That was a rematch against Don Stewart. That lead, 1,840. She lost that by 647 votes in that by-election that started everything that's happening right now. You can draw a direct line between that and this.
Yeah, that loss, that by-election loss, was part of what got Liberals upset with Justin Trudeau and starting to speak more openly about how he needed to leave. A lot of Conservatives thought that by-election win was an anomaly, and indeed, the Liberals have taken back that riding tonight with Leslie Church. Let's have a look at Conservative headquarters now and see what's shaking over there. Also in Ottawa. Okay.
To be clear,
it's a bad night for the NDP.
It is a bad night. And of course, my disclaimer is the Alberta New Democrats are not the federal NDP. And certainly we don't always agree on everything. But when we think about some of these values, when we think about the value that I think most Canadians want, you know, they want public services that work. They want an economy that provides for jobs, decent, good jobs for workers now and in the future. They don't want to pay too much in taxes. Nobody does. They want a government that is fiscally responsible. So by and large, I think that New Democrats can say this is what we stand for. And for whatever reason, the federal New Democrats have not been able to make that case. But I will say one thing, and I've said this as a political pundit, and I'll say it as a partisan now. When you look at what was accomplished in terms of pharmacare, dental care, child care in this last government, none of that would have happened without the New Democrats, but they've been unable, I think, to make that case to voters.
Okay, Naheed Nenshi, leader of the NDP in Alberta. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Donna, these numbers are just, they're really interesting, right? Like 18 ridings yet to report, only 18 left. Again, those numbers themselves can pick up a handful yet to get to 172. The NDP need to pick up 4. You can imagine the Conservatives hoping the NDP win some of those BC ridings so they keep the Liberals from getting to a majority. So
the Liberals with the NDP right now, let's say Green, if the Greens win that seat, they're still not reaching 9.
No,
I mean a minority being
No, but it's pretty, it's beginning to look clear, as we were saying earlier, because the swing meter was...
The Liberals are going to form government. We don't yet know whether it's going to be a majority government or not. Those by-elections that we were talking about, this happened in Toronto, St. Paul. We hosted a by-election special there and with LaSalle and Marivera. It was 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning before you got results. Now, with a leader and a seat on the line, may go faster, but they had to count tens of thousands of these. Yeah, that's the challenge they're up against.
I do have to say that those numbers that we saw there with a Liberal advantage, it's because the advance polls were counted first for that riding. So let's not, no one's going to suggest here that that's the direction this is going to take. Arif, you wanted to say something there?
Well, I think it's interesting. You showed that photo of the folks in the conservative room, and the concern that I have is actually what it's going to look like that first Conservative caucus meeting. What I'm getting at, Rosemary, is that in terms of expectations, the expectations were quite large on the part of Pierre Poilievre's caucus, that he would deliver them into government, minority or majority, but he would deliver them into government. They have this legislation that we deal with all the time as parliamentarians. First act of a caucus is to decide on the Michael Chong private members bill about what we're going to do.
If you want to get going, Andrew Coyne's ready for this conversation.
But it's an interesting conversation, because I just think what we've seen after consecutive elections is Andrew Scheer turfed, or O'Toole turfed. So Pierre Poilievre is concerned with his caucus and the expectations. And I would hear about that on the floor of committees, Rosemary. I would hear about it on the floor of the House of Commons. People measuring the drapes on their future ministerial offices. That has not happened tonight. There's going to be unhappy Conservatives.
Sure. But let's see. If he improves the Conservatives' results from the last vote, which was 128 with redistribution, he's at 133, 134 here. I don't know. It's possible that some people will want to let him. He could say this is a partial victory if he holds him to a minority. I don't know. I'm just saying. Andrew, you went in, and then I got to go to Catherine here.
One thing to measure the drapes, another thing to measure the coffin. I mean, it's maybe a little early for that. I think it will depend in part on whether it's a majority or minority.
Totally.
I think you absolutely are right that if he comes out of this with 40% of the vote, he would have bettered Stephen Harper. The other question is, he's got such a lock on the base of the party. Can you really take him out even if the caucus decides?
Yes,
the caucus might turf him. I mean, the base might vote him back in.
Okay,
but Rosemary, in terms of the base of the party, it's the inability to stand up to that base in Alberta that has cost him this election. If he could have stood up to Daniel Smith, I think that's actually what's happened.
Let's talk about it after. I do want to spend time. We're not going to write off anyone because we're not at that stage in the evening at all. Catherine Cullen, apparently you have a guest.
Yes, and first we're going to just talk a little bit about what is going on in Quebec before we get to Vanessa Lee, our colleague on the island of Montreal. Let's start by taking a look at what is going on in LaSalle. Emard Verdun. Oh, perhaps. In fact, we are going to go to Vanessa Lee right away. Let's just get to the good stuff. And there you are, Vanessa Lee, on the island of Montreal. I believe you are with some prominent Liberals. Tell us what's going on.
Well, Catherine, we are at the Society of Arts and Technology in the heart of downtown Montreal. And this is a very happy place because this is where more than a dozen Liberal candidates in the greater Montreal area are gathering and celebrating tonight. And joining me now is Stephen Guilbeault, the Quebec Lieutenant, most recently responsible for Parks Canada as well as Canadian culture and identity. Mr. Guilbeault, congratulations on your party's win. How are you? What's going through your mind right now? Because your riding is still too close to call.
Yes, I think things are looking very well in the riding, but as you rightly say, it's too close to call yet, or it's very early. I think our numbers are very good, but are very early. We're very grateful that Canadians have decided to give us another mandate. And we feel honored, and we will work hard for Canadians. We're asking for a strong government because we know we have tough days ahead, certainly with the U.S. administration and President Trump. We know it's going to be complicated, so the stronger the Canadian government can be, the more united we are, the easiest it's going to be to face President Trump.
What do you think made the difference in this election that Canadians have voted for another Liberal government? And how confident are you that it will be a majority government?
Well, clearly the numerous attacks by President Trump on the Canadian economy, but not just the economy, on our sovereignty and our very identity, I think have really mobilized Canadians. And I think they saw in Prime Minister Carney someone who has experience on the world stage, someone who has experience with the economy, with finance, who has managed crisis versus Pierre Poilievre, who's never done anything else then work on Parliament Hill in Ottawa. And they felt he was the right person for what's coming ahead and the difficult times we have ahead of us.
We appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Back to you, Catherine.
Vanessa Lee in Montreal. And Rosie, worth noting, Stephen Guilbeault's riding, it was Gilles Ducep's old riding. It's gone Bloc in the past. It went NDP. Even in 2015, Hélène Laverdière kept that riding.
That's right.
Right now, though, Stephen Guilbeault, about 46% of the vote. Still early numbers, though.
Okay. And you can see there at the bottom of your screen, we have still not made a call about what kind of government Mark Carney will be leading as the 24th Prime Minister. 162 seats leading and elected for the Liberals, 138 for the Conservatives, 24 for the Bloc, 10 leading or elected for, I think they're just leading, but maybe leading and elected for the NDP. You need 12 to form official party status. The Greens, oh, look, they just popped up. It seems like every time I mention them, they just appear. Leading and elected in 1. Remember that the number that the Liberals are still hoping to get to tonight is 172. That would give them a majority government and, of course, the ability, the mandate to implement their agenda much, much easier than if they're going to have to work with another party. But what we're seeing tonight is really the story of what this election has been. Largely a two-party race and the collapse of the Bloc and the NDP's vote right now. I want to talk maybe a little bit about popular vote and whether it matters here. I'm just looking at our dashboard. The Liberals are at 44.7%. The Conservatives at 40.6%. And I would just note that these numbers are so big, right? They are so big compared to what you would normally see in an election. 2015, for instance, Justin Trudeau won his majority with 39.47% of the popular vote. That is, I guess, just because we're in this two-party race. Is that how I should read that, Chantal?
Yeah, you should also wait to have the full score.
Yes, of course.
What you're getting is a lot of those Alberta Conservative votes that are kind of
pushing theirs up,
raising the numbers for the Conservatives. But having said that, yes, it is both numbers are way too high for the kind, and that's why when you look at the seats and the possibility of a majority government, it's really hard to have a minority government if you do not have a strong third-party presence. And at this point, yes, the Bloc looks like it's going to get 23, 24 seats, but still, we're used to parliaments where minority rule means many parties that have an official party status.
Yes.
And at this point, that's not where we're going tonight. So I'm curious to see how the night unfolds.
Yeah.
I notice there are still loads of places where the vote has barely been counted.
Yes, there are probably 24 places where, no, 24 places where it has barely been counted. Worth remembering here that 6 of the last 8 federal elections have produced minority governments, right? The last majority government we had, of course, was Liberal in 2015.
And with 4 parties with official party status, we look like we're going down to 3. I don't really believe there are loads of New Democrat votes hidden in those uncounted votes.
No, we might get to 4. Does that concern anyone that there is fewer, less representation of parties inside the House of Commons in terms of what that means for democracy, Andrew?
I don't think it's a good thing or bad thing on its own. I mean, again, you get into the issue of how representative is the popular vote in that regard. How well represented is it in terms of the number of seats?
Yeah.
But ultimately, the electorate is going to decide whether they want to have a multiplicity of parties or maybe in the present circumstances. That's the question is this a one-off or does this represent a greater degree of change? We've seen the NDP written off before they came back. We've seen the Liberals written off before.
The Bloc, too, yeah.
We've seen the Bloc.
Yeah.
So these are enduring brands, and the wheel goes full circle, and they may come back.
Chantal, then Althea.
On the NDP, they went from no official party status in '93 to a decade or 2 later, I admit, but they still, at some point, they had presence across the country, from Atlantic Canada to BC, including Quebec. So that possibility is still there. Do not assume that a victory for the Liberals tonight is necessarily a Liberal reign for all times.
No.
At some point, the seeds of change will come back, and they might have a better chance to bloom.
Yeah, and Liberals probably shouldn't assume that either. Andrew, and then Althea.
The one thing I think we should be looking for is not just, will they get over the majority, will BC put them over the top, but also how will the Liberals do in Western Canada? One of the things people have been very worried about, some people, is will another Liberal victory cause Westerners, and some Westerners anyway, to give up on Canada? I should note that the numbers coming in BC and Alberta are looking pretty close to what the polling numbers were suggesting, and the polling numbers are saying the Liberals are going to do better, at least in the popular vote in those provinces, better than they have since 1968. So that should hopefully dampen down some of the sort of attempts to portray this as the West being shut out yet again.
We'll see. Last word to you, Althea.
Just a few things. So on that is something that the Liberals were quite concerned about, which is why Mr. Carney spent the last day going to Saskatchewan, going to Alberta to make that case, hoping to grab seats that they otherwise did not have. I think it's not a thing about democracy if there are no parties, smaller parties in the House. I think it's just, if the balance of power is the Bloc Québécois, it is an opening for the Conservatives to say that it's an illegitimate coalition, much like they did in 2008, which basically means that we will have another election.
But it's not a coalition. It's just one party helps another, right?
Right. But they framed the last supply and confidence agreement as a coalition.
The
just
Bloc
because
isn't about to sign a supply and confidence agreement
with anyone. Of
course
not. They will do issue by issue as they always have, as they have always communicated. But that will not stop the Conservative Party from framing it in that way.
Right.
And I think it will make it very difficult, especially if Mr. Poilievre remains the Conservative leader, because I don't see areas where, although there actually are lots of policy areas where they could get together, I don't see the personalities leading to cooperation in the House of Commons, which basically just means that we will have an election, if it is a minority government and the Bloc has a balance of power, either later this year or next year.
But at that level, if the NDP doesn't even need official party status, it can have a share of the balance of power. Let's agree that we are not yet in those scenarios where the Bloc was going to become the official opposition, and then I was going to hold a knife to the throat of the government. That's not what's happening.
No,
I got to get to David Cochrane here. He's got some stuff from the 905.
Well, look, this is part of the reason why we are where we are. You see the Liberal number actually retreating a little bit. Right now, they are only at 65 seats in Ontario. They are down 10, down 11. And I'm going to look at the Greater Toronto area, and this gives you a sense of where we are right now. So you can see here, a Mississauga is blue, a Brampton is blue, another Brampton is blue. So Peel region has been breached by the Conservatives at this point in time. As we were saying earlier, this is the gate that they need to break down and get closer to the downtown part of Toronto if they're going to make it more of a game at the top line numbers, but certainly in Ontario. And the Liberals are having a little bit of a struggle, at least at this hour of the night. Similar story. There we go. In Vaughan Woodbridge, this is a Conservative-held seat. Thornhill, that's Melissa Landsman. But York Centre, this is another Liberal seat that is blue at the moment. And in Richmond Hill, Aurora, Oak Ridge is a Newmarket, Aurora. York region and Peel region. The Liberals felt pretty good about Peel region. There was some top-line polling suggesting that it was tightening up there as you got towards Election Day. And you are seeing that also up in the York region, which is what the Liberals were the most worried about in their seats in Ontario. But an interesting thing developing as well here in southwestern Ontario, because look, the Conservative number is 144. Like, that's way up for Pierre Poilievre. Like, that is a big increase in the seats, at least at this point in the night. In the NDP, from Hamilton to London to Windsor right now, those are blue. The conventional wisdom was the collapse of the NDP vote would elect Liberals. But if the Liberals and the NDP both are strong second and third, the Conservatives could come up the middle. That may be what is happening in those areas. And just going back to the GTA, I know this was a concern up in the York region here, was that the NDP vote dropping would help the Liberals run up the score in the downtown Toronto core, where they're going to win just by larger margins. But there were not really any NDP vote to be gained in a lot of these 905 outer areas. And that would just, you would have a false sense of how viable you were in those ridings, and you would see Conservatives flip those blue. So the Liberals, still early yet in Ontario, but vote inefficiency not playing in their favor as they are down double-digit seats in a province that pollsters from start to finish had them up double-digit points, right?
But that, again, speaks to what we're talking about around the popular vote and the seat efficiency. Nothing is working as it normally would in an election. That's what's happening, right?
Yes, and you know, Donald Trump obviously disrupted this entire election. I mean, the U.S. president makes about $400,000 U.S. a year. The Liberals should probably book that as a campaign expense, given the way that it's helped them throughout this thing. But, you know, until we get sort of the urban votes in mass number to know exactly how the cities of Canada are going to vote and the suburbs of Canada are going to finally vote, and, of course, British Columbia, it's hard to know if they're going to get there. But the vote efficiency that has helped the Liberals win the 2019 federal election and win the 2021 federal election, despite losing the popular vote, at this stage, we're not yet seeing that. Now, they're starting to tick back up. They're in 161 right now. Them and the New Democrats and the Greens, Rosie, that's a majority. You got a bingo right there. But, you know, that's a whole lot of work that still needs to be sorted out at this point of the night.
Okay, thank you so much for that, David Cochrane. If you're just tuning in, we have, in fact, called a Liberal government with Mark Carney as Canada's 24th Prime Minister. He also has been elected for the very first time in his life in the riding of Nepean. We are waiting to see whether it's a minority or a majority, so we're going to go to Adrian now, who's got some results, projected results, maybe that will help us get there.
Indeed. So we're looking at a projected elected, the only one that is a flip in Ontario so far. That is Toronto St. Paul's with Leslie Church. Again, the only projected elected flip for the Liberals so far in Ontario. Wouldn't it be interesting to talk to Leslie Church? Well, why don't we do that? Let's talk to Eli Glasner, who is in Toronto St. Paul's with Leslie Church. Hello, Eli.
Yeah, Adrian, so we are here in our room crammed with volunteers, and here she is, Leslie Church. Congratulations. I want to know from you that very close loss to Don Stewart back in June, and then to pick up the campaign and start again. How was it different when you started knocking on doors for now a second time?
Well, the difference was really Trump and Mark Carney. Donald Trump, I think, has really set the stakes for this election in a way that stood at the doors. And the change of leadership. Mark Carney came in as a fresh, new, experienced leader for the Liberal Party, and I think people were looking for that too. So that really changed the playing field. And also it was more time to do the outreach that we needed, to hear from people heading into a general election as opposed to a by-election. And I think that was really important. So I'm deeply, deeply grateful for the results tonight.
You lost in the by-election to the Conservative Don Stewart, a small margin of votes of just over 600. Now here you are. How are you feeling this evening?
I feel very good. I feel so grateful for the trust that the community of St. Paul's has put in me. I'm so grateful for the team. We've had just people coming out in this election in ways that I've never seen before, getting involved because of what's at stake. And so I really hope to continue that engagement as we go forward.
I understand people were coming to your campaign measure when he was out putting out signs, something like 4 times the amount of requests for signs. So there really was, this time as opposed to the by-election, a bit of an uphill battle. A lot of voters talking about Justin Trudeau, not so happy, but a different atmosphere this time.
Well, look, the world has changed, and St. Paul's feels that. And so it's absolutely true. We had people coming in literally off the street, getting involved in their first campaign of their lives, saying this matters, this is going to be the most important election of my lifetime in Canada. And we're proud to be part of a party that is pushing a positive agenda, that wants to build a better future here, and most importantly wants to stand up for Canada in the face of Donald Trump. I mean, that was just an existential threat that really loomed over all of this election.
All right, thank you for making time for us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
There you go, Leslie Church. Here at Toronto St. Paul's, very dramatic riding, bit of a bellwether, bit of a wake-up call for the Liberals when the by-election, a big surprise when Don Stewart won just a very small margin. But as you're seeing from those results, a very dramatic difference tonight. And certainly when she came downstairs and entered, this celebration, there were loud cheers. And as we were hearing from the organizers when they were out on the street, when they were knocking on doors, the thing they were hearing again and again, it was Trump and the tariffs, and those concerns has brought this red wave back to St. Paul's. It was a red riding for many, many years with Carolyn Bennett, and it is red now once again.
Okay, all right, Eli Glasner, who was with Leslie Church there. That's the story of Fortress Toronto, but if you go outside...
Oui, mais 2 points de base, c'est énorme. Oui. Quand on réalise, Hélène, qu'ils ne sont jamais allés plus que 39
Oui,
depuis...
mais si votre adversaire fait plus 7...
Non, oui, non, ça je le sais. Ça je le sais, j'en suis conscient. Mais le chemin existe s'il se fait élire ce soir. Le chemin existe pour lui d'être chef dans un gouvernement minoritaire, chef du Parti conservateur. Je reviens à ma théorie. Carney est très heureux. Il est sur le Airbus 321. Il laisse tout le monde en l'air, il se promène partout. Négocier avec Trump. On évacue donc le problème avec les Américains. Et là, s'il y a une autre élection, à ce moment-là, Poilievre est sur de bonnes...
Mais c'est certain que si on est en situation minoritaire, Poilievre ne va nulle part. À moins qu'il reste
là.
Oui.
C'est ce que je dis. L'avenir dure longtemps. Mais moi, je vais en ajouter sur mon collègue ex-sénateur et ministre, c'est que, imaginez le degré de difficulté. Donc, Pierre Poilievre, dans un contexte complètement nouveau, avec un roi fou à Washington, un banquier qui prend la place de Trudeau, et qui lui prend son programme, sur la taxe carbone, sur les baisses d'impôts, et il progresse quand même à 41 C'est quand même quelque chose. Il n'a pas démérité de la famille conservatrice, et je pense qu'il a un avenir devant lui.
À 41, je pense qu'objectivement, Michel, vous êtes d'accord, il n'a pas démérité.
Absolument pas. Absolument pas. Puis ce qui est fascinant, c'est que l'Ontario, c'est l'industrie de l'automobile. Et c'est au cœur des négociations avec Trump. Et normalement, les libéraux auraient dû faire des gains beaucoup plus importants. Et là, ce qu'on voit, c'est que c'est les conservateurs qui vont chercher ce vote-là d'une certaine façon. Puis je ne le regarde pas là, circonscription par circonscription, mais sur le principe même, l'Ontario, c'est important. Et dans ce sens-là, ben, sa stratégie d'aller vers les travailleurs aux dépens du NPD, qui normalement devrait être le parti des travailleurs et des syndicats, ben, ce soir, c'est les conservateurs qui récoltent ce fruit-là. Et juste pour terminer sur ce que Michael dit, je sais que lui, il pense qu'à Noël, c'est terminé. Moi, je pense pas qu'à Noël, c'est terminé, dans le sens qu'il y aura avec Trump, il y aura d'autres conséquences. Et c'est pour ça que c'est important de voir si c'est un gouvernement minoritaire, ça change la donne pour le reste des...
En tout cas, ça ressemble à ça, ce qu'on a devant les yeux. Là. Je ne sais pas ce qu'a pris le conseiller libéral, à moins qu'il y ait des chiffres qu'on ne comprenne pas. Là,
mais ce qui est intéressant... Oh, excusez.
Sébastien, Grand Toronto.
Oui, Grand Toronto, c'est là que ça s'est joué pour distancer le Parti libéral d'un gouvernement majoritaire au moment où on se parle, parce que les conservateurs ont quand même fait des gains. Regardez, ça, c'est les résultats de ce soir. Donc, vous voyez le bleu qui est ici. Le bleu qui est ici, c'est des circonscriptions où les conservateurs sont en avance comparativement à 2021. Donc, c'est des prises pour le Parti conservateur qui rentrent un peu dans Toronto. Et si on regarde de façon plus générale d'autres sections de l'Ontario, ici aussi, c'était très conservateur avec des grosses circonscriptions. Mais dans l'analyse un peu plus fine, ils ont aussi fait des gains sur les libéraux, notamment ici. Donc, l'Ontario a livré d'une certaine façon pour les conservateurs et n'a pas livré pour les libéraux, ce qui fait en sorte qu'on se retrouve avec les chiffres actuels. Ça se resserre quand même 156-148.
Alors, c'est pour ça que j'ai un grand point d'interrogation avec peut-être le texto du contact de Louis. C'est un texto il y a 3 heures.
Où il y a du piratage.
Parce que ce qui est intéressant, à l'Ontario, Sébastien parle de Toronto, mais effectivement, le sud-ouest de l'Ontario, c'est important. Ce sont ces circonscriptions qu'on appelle les pivots, celles qui passent du rouge au bleu d'une circonscription à l'autre. Et moi, je regardais des endroits comme Aurora, Cambridge, Flamborough, Milton, Markham, Unionville. Tous ces endroits-là sont en train de basculer bleu. Et ça, c'était là-dessus que misaient les libéraux et ça ne s'est pas produit.
Au total, c'est 16 sièges de plus pour les conservateurs en Ontario au moment où on se parle.
C'est vraiment pas ce qu'on prévoit.
Alors, je vous redonne la parole, mais une petite seconde pour préciser une chose. Il y a actuellement, à 23h10, 33 luttes extrêmement serrées. Et donc, je refais le fil avec le conseiller qui a parlé à notre ami, c'est que si dans les 33 luttes, il y en a 20 qui tombent du côté rouge, ils ont effectivement une possibilité encore de devenir majoritaire. Il y en a 33 là où c'est serré, serré, serré. Et c'est arrivé...
Si elles tombent de l'autre côté?
S'ils tombent... Non, mais les libéraux... OK, je vous donne un exemple tout de suite, Michael. Surrey Sud, White Rock. Deux petites voix, là. Là, c'est du... Puis là, ça a changé 3 fois. Alors, Victoria, plus 7. Si ça se confirme pour... ben lui, ça compte pas parce qu'il est dans les avances ou en tête, là. Bon, en voici une. Si Jill McKnight prend le dessus sur Jesse Saota, ben les libéraux en ajoutent une. Alors, il y en a comme ça 30, 33 même. Ce qui fait qu'on ne peut pas pour l'instant confirmer que le sort de Carney est minoritaire et c'est comme ça dans Cumberland, Colchester.
Si vous voulez faire
22,
la mathématique, Patrice, les bloquistes, je ne dis pas qu'ils veulent faire ça, qu'ils vont faire ça, mais ils pourraient gouverner avec les conservateurs.
Absolument. Et je pensais à ça tantôt. Si Poilievre avait bâti des ponts, on revient tout le temps à ça. Si tu bâtis des ponts, puis tu as des amis, puis tu cries pas Bredolbon, ben quand c'est le temps de faire un truc comme ça, les gens sont plus ouverts.
Sauf que ça
alors,
serait
156, 148.
Non, on ne dit pas que ça va se faire.
Non.
Mais gouverner avec oui, ben il pourrait si.
Mais rappelons-nous, à l'époque de Harper, l'idée était, c'est que les conservateurs disaient que c'est le premier parti, celui qui a le plus de sièges, qui doit faire le gouvernement et qu'une telle coalition qui serait formée avec le deuxième et le troisième serait illégitime. Alors, je verrais mal M. Poilievre jouer...
C'est l'argumentaire de M. Harper
c'est intéressant.
Oui,
mais il n'est pas là aujourd'hui pour défendre cet argumentaire.
C'est à lui qui a la première tentative de faire le gouvernement. S'il échoue, il peut y avoir une deuxième tentative avec avec l'opposition officielle appuyée par d'autres partis.
Alexandre Boulris réélu. 5e mandat pour Alexandre Boulris dans Rosemont, la petite patrie. Donc, confortable pour M. Boulris qui se retrouve dans un caucus pour l'instant de 11. Gérard Deltel réélu aussi facilement dans Louis-Saint-Laurent, Akiawandrac. Et Lévis-Lotbinière, Jacques Gourde, tiens. Donc, les périodes de questions vont être...
le futur Louis Plamondon.
Bonne nouvelle pour Infoman.
8e mandat pour M.
Oui,
Gourde.
mais he's coming up.
Ah oui, mais Infoman a fait campagne, je suis sûr.
Laurier-Sainte-Marie, élu. Stephen Guilbeault, ministre de la Culture et de l'Identité canadienne. Donc, élu, c'est Nina Machouf qui arrive 2e. Et University Rosedale, c'est réglé pour Chrystia Freeland. Je l'ai répété à 2-3 reprises, Mme Freeland, qui et elle parle en ce moment. Elle est un peu responsable de tout ce qu'on est en train de décrire, de vivre actuellement. Dans le Grand Montréal, Sébastien.
Voilà, les libéraux ont réussi à aller chercher
And part of that story is as you go down your screen and you see what's happened to the Bloc and the NDP at just 5%, which is undoubtedly a devastating outcome for them. They are not yet right at official party status. Not sure whether they will get there. That is the number 12 that you have to watch for. But again, lots of things still fluid and in flux. And Ian's going to tell us a little bit about some of that.
Let's take a look at Vancouver Island. This has been a fortress in the past for the NDP, and a lot of people wondered what would happen to their seats. And you can see here that right now the NDP is trailing in 4 of the ridings that they hold on Vancouver Island, and both the Liberals and the Conservatives are taking the lead there. None of these, though, are projected elected. But let's take a look, first of all, at Victoria. Will Greaves, University of Victoria professor, has pretty well doubled the vote share for the Conservatives in a riding which for a long time has been held by the NDP. I talked to another professor at UVic who said that Professor Greaves got the nomination back when it didn't look like there was really any chance of the Liberals winning. Well, now next year he's not going to teach any students. He's going to be heading to Ottawa. Esquimalt Saanich Suk, Stephanie McLean has gone from being a cabinet minister in the Rachel Notley NDP government in Alberta to displacing the NDP candidate here. This is Randall Garrison's old riding, so of course he was an analyst with us earlier tonight. Obviously the incumbent not running again, but Maya Tate, Mayor Suk, was seen as the star candidate, and you can see she is in 3rd place. Let's take a look at Nanaimo Ladysmith, another place where the NDP support has plummeted. And Tamara Cronus is a lawyer, but on her website it says you might find her bartending at the Legion, sport shooting, or playing bridge. So a lawyer with a bit of a twist. That's kind of interesting. And yeah, huge lead going on in Nanaimo Ladysmith. Let's look at North Island, Powell River. This is a riding that I think some Conservatives thought they would win easily. And this is a riding that so far the NDP candidate, who is not the incumbent, has managed to hold on to more or less the share that the NDP had last time around. But still, Conservatives in the lead by just over 500 votes, Rosemary.
Okay, thank you for that, Ian. I'm going to show a couple of boards myself now to explain a little bit more of the story we're seeing tonight. This is sort of what we call a party summary board, how they're doing right across the country at this stage in the evening. So you can see their vote share 5.5% overall. But look at those numbers on the right, on the far right of your screen. Those numbers down. The NDP is down in every region of the country. And let me show you where some of that has gone by showing you this next board. This is the Liberal Party. Overall, 42.6%. But look at that. Look at what has happened to them on the right of your screen. Up in every single region of the country. And that explains a little bit where we are tonight. That collapse of the NDP, yes, has supported everyone, the Conservatives and the Liberals, but the Liberals really surging with some support growth, some growth in every part of the country. Let's go to David Cochrane.
Yeah, Rosie, I mean, the NDP are down by double-digit percentage points everywhere. They could go down by double-digit percentage points. The only spot where they're not are the ones where they were in the single digits to begin with. But look, the path to party status was a difficult one for the NDP coming into Jagmeet Singh's 3rd national election. They need 12 seats to get there. It's going to be tough. They have nothing in Atlantic Canada. We know that. They do have 1 seat in the island of Montreal. Alexandre Boularice was re-elected in the Rosemont-La Petite-Patrie riding. That's one. He's the Eastern Canadian flank. We do have them leading in Nunavut, but I don't believe they're elected yet in Nunavut. But let's look at Ontario. Let's look at Greater Toronto Area. Olivia Chow is the mayor of Toronto. There is not a single speck of orange anywhere to see in the GTA. We go into southwestern Ontario, northern Ontario. That was Charlie Angus's seat. Right now, that is blue on our map. You go into southwestern Ontario. There was an NDP seat in Windsor. Right now it is blue. There was one in London. Right now it is blue. You go further east into Hamilton. There was an NDP seat. Right now it is blue. Their vote collapse, while the Liberals have gone up, the vote inefficiency has created a path for Conservatives in a lot of seats that I'm getting texts from people in the NDP campaign saying this is the consequence of strategic voting. People hurrying to the Liberals stop the NDP from stopping Conservatives in seats where if their vote had held, they might have won. Either way, they have 2 seats basically in the north and all of eastern Canada. You get into Manitoba, you go into Winnipeg, This was another place where they had 3 seats coming into this. Right now, Leah Gazan is the last New Democrat standing in Manitoba. She has been elected, I'm told, in Manitoba. In Saskatchewan, they are nowhere at this point in time. You go into Alberta, you go to Edmonton. We already reported earlier Blake Desjardins had lost his riding of Edmonton-Griesbach. Heather McPherson is leading right now in Edmonton-Strathcona. So that means, really, obviously, no growth potential here. No growth potential here. It all comes down to British Columbia. This is where the core of the NDP caucus was. They had 13 seats in the last parliament from British Columbia. Ian talked about what's happening on Vancouver Island. Well, you know, this is going to be tight. It's already one of the orange seats is flipped blue as the counting goes back and forth. You know, I have described Vancouver Island as the Narnia of Canadian politics. You got green, red, blue, and orange. Nowhere else in the country does that happen, but it's playing out here on Vancouver Island. But you have Liberals in Victoria leading right now for the first time since David Anderson was a member of Parliament in the Chrétien years. But look, this is where it really comes down to right now, is the Lower Mainland. In Greater Vancouver, there were 5 NDP seats in Vancouver, including the leader, Jagmeet Singh. He's trailing right now. The others are close. Don Davies in Vancouver Kingsway, the last update I had on that was less than 300 votes. So these are the areas where the NDP needs to come back, Rosie, if they're going to get to the 12 seats. But is out of their vote. It's up to Vancouver to put it back in there. And I don't know if they have enough time and enough ground game to get it done at this stage of the night.
Okay. Thank you for that, David. We can, though, elect another leader. Let's show you that. Elizabeth May has won her riding of Saanich Gulf Islands with a significant lead, more than 2,500 votes. She was first elected in 2011. She continues to be the co-leader of the party. Her other co-leader lost in his riding in Outremont, so we'll see what that means for the future of that party. But right now, only one seat, and it's hers, in British Columbia. She has always been an effective parliamentarian, but obviously difficult when growth continues to elude that party, particularly in an election like this. Chantal Hébert, what are you thinking?
I think this is what it looks like when we have a two-party system.
Yeah.
And the nights get long because it's a one-on-one battle.
Yeah.
And there are so many contradictions. I keep going back to the riding of Carleton.
Yes.
Mr. Poilievre's riding, which after 40 polls now, he is still lagging well behind. I'm not saying he's going to lose, but you would think they've done well in Ontario. And yet in his riding, this is happening. But the night we're having now is a direct product of the fact that we had a binary campaign.
Yeah.
And the reason why we're all a bit trying to find our footing is because we've never done an election night that was like this one.
Yeah.
Where none of the usual assumptions allow us to know how this is going to end.
Yeah.
Yes, we know it's going to end with the Liberal government.
Yes.
I also believe the advance poll thing and the lack of a protocol forces us to not go anywhere because we don't know where those votes have been counted.
Yeah.
And that hopefully will be the last time we will have an absent over the universal word on how you count those votes so that we know what we're dealing with when we see results.
Well, and it can be done, right? Because the Chief Electoral Officer issued that special directive for Carleton to begin counting advance votes 6 hours before because they were so long. Again, it is the choice of the returning officer, so that's what they get to decide. I guess the issue is, should they be able to decide that way? I will remember an election, now I'm really dating myself, where Jean Charest was going to win in Sherbrooke, and it looked like he was about to lose.
Oh, the Radio-Canada declared him lost.
That's right.
Half an hour was lost on burying Mr. Charest, who subsequently won his seat.
He won. And I was in Sherbrooke, and they kept saying to me, don't do it, don't do it. The boxes aren't open. And that is exactly what happened. The advance ballots got opened, and he clinched his riding.
So you know why I'm obsessing over advance votes? Because I lived through that.
Yeah. Andrew?
Yeah, I have one small concern about that, which is
figure in Edmonton, Omar, but a big hit for the NDP there as well.
And official party status is significant. I mean, the NDP sitting right now, again, just right now at 8 seats, official party status is 12. It's not just a fancy title. I mean, this
comes with resources,
budgets, money, exactly, and significantly increases a party's ability to advance their causes, public discourse, that sort of thing. So it's not just a title. It does carry some weight to it, and that's why it is important to reach at least that 12-seat threshold in whatever parliament you happen to be in.
One piece of quick good news for them. In this long tail now of bad news, Alexandre Belouris re-elected to their lone seat in Quebec. We were just able to declare.
That's great news for them. I believe we have Colton Prail right now, if I'm not mistaken. All right, Colton Prail standing by. Tell us, Colton, where you are and what you're hearing.
Yeah, Omar, I'm in the Conservative HQ here, and the reactions tonight have been stark. We've seen intense anger, especially when we called the result, before we even had a minority or majority. But since then, that emotion has quelled, and it's turned into this level of disbelief. The number of supporters that I've talked to here that are stunned that they find themselves in what they feel like is essentially the same situation they were in 5 weeks ago is significant. And in some cases, that disbelief is literal. When we saw the closing of those polling numbers, of those result numbers, when they were both in the 50s, for example, there were chants of bring it home here. There were supporters who, despite us having called the results, genuinely still believed that this was up for grabs and that this was still available to them. That has subsided a little bit here, but what we're left with is massive questions around the future of the party. Everyone I speak to still says they feel like Pierre Poilievre is the leader for the Conservatives and they have their faith behind him, but at the same time they're looking at the results coming in Carleton and again wondering how they can be in such a tight race. It's been an array of emotions throughout the night. The party officials who I've spoke to have had a very different reaction, and I think it is important to highlight they feel good. I mean, this is obviously not the result that they were looking for, but they are proud of the campaign they run, and I think that speaks to why this level of disbelief is here. So many of these people were at the rallies, they were surrounded by thousands of other supporters, and they're just having a hard time grasping how what they experienced there could translate into the results they're seeing tonight.
Every single person in that room right now, Colton, is going to be watching to see what happens with Pierre Poilievre in his home riding of Carleton Vashon.
Yeah, edge of your seat stuff. We want to return to that story of the NDP suffering some really significant losses that puts their status as an official party in jeopardy. Jagmeet Singh now in third position in Burnaby Central. His riding, we're waiting to see conclusively what happens there, but it's not looking good for the leader of the NDP. Let's head over to Burnaby, where we find our Judy Trin. She is reporting from the NDP headquarters this evening. Judy, what is the mood there right now? How are they internalizing what we are seeing in the form of these results?
Vashi, they are trying to remain upbeat. As you can hear behind me, they are trying to cheer for any positive result that has come in that they see on the board. But let's face it, in Burnaby right now, Jagmeet Singh is polling third. He is far behind the Liberal candidate as well as the Conservative candidate. It's important to point out that these are two relative unknowns. He was the incumbent, he had the brand recognition, and he is in third place at this point. What I can tell you and what I think is the story is this collapse of the NDP in Ontario. And what is interesting to me is when you look at where the votes are going, where are the NDP votes going, right? Specifically in Southwest Ontario. What is interesting is that in London as well as in Windsor, those seats, those NDP seats went to Conservative candidates. And I want to give our viewers a little bit of context. Pierre Poilievre was the last leader to visit Windsor. He actually visited Windsor, but his time on April 11th. But his timing may have been perfect in regards to speaking to the constituents there. He visited Windsor on April 11th. That was the day that the GM plant, electric vehicle plant, CAMI, announced that it was going to go under a partial shutdown, a temporary shutdown. They said it wasn't related to the tariffs, but it was related to declining sales. So once again, he was in that region espousing his message while Mark Carney was in Ottawa, while Jagmeet Singh was also in Ottawa at the time. So whether or not, even despite being the last leader to visit this automotive heartland, the manufacturing heartland of Canada, whether or not he was able to speak most directly to the people. And I think that also the other story that just sticks out for me is that the NDP really wanted to talk about the fact that they were endorsed by so many unions, the most unions of any party, despite the fact that Liberals and the Conservatives were actively courting. Unions that represented more than 1 million workers. But those unions, those unionized workers may not have showed up for them at the polls. Vashi, Omar.
All right, thank you so much, Judy. A lot of different results coming in British Columbia. We're seeing some significant pickups for the Conservatives, but also for the Liberals, all of it at the expense of the NDP. A lot to watch there. It's a very dynamic situation, and it's going to inform where those numbers at the bottom of your screen actually end up over the course of the evening.
Let's get to Heather Butts. She's been tracking the context in all of this, looking at the people behind the numbers. And Heather, what can you tell us?
Well, Omar, we're actually going to pick up on what my colleague Judy Trinh was just talking about there, and that is the NDP and how they ended up losing so many votes and where those votes went to. So, Nick, we're going to talk about vote efficiency. What does that mean for our audience?
Well, you have to think of it this way, Heather. The thing is there's popular support, and the thing is that the number of seats you can generate with the votes that you have, the more efficient that you are, the more likely you are to win an election. In this particular campaign, those smaller parties, the NDP and the Bloc, just have been crushed by both the Liberals and the Conservatives.
And let's head to southwestern Ontario. We're giving you a map, a visual representation of what Judy Trinh was just talking about. The fact that the Conservatives have really swept this riding, or excuse me, this region. And this is, as she mentioned, a place where there's a lot of manufacturing jobs. The auto sector is a huge employer in this region.
Yeah, an absolute breakthrough for the Poilievre Conservatives in southwestern Ontario. And if you remember, when at the beginning of the night we were talking about races that were too close to call, it was in this particular region. And what it shows is that the Conservative campaign was able to punch above its weight, explains why it was able to pick up a significant number of seats in Ontario and help them close the gap with the Liberals.
Okay, let's head towards the Kitchener area. Nick, I want to look at this riding. Kitchener Centre, the Conservatives in the lead by 781 votes there over the Green incumbent, Nick.
Yeah, and great news for the Conservatives here, and for the Greens, they don't have a lot of seats to start off with, and losing Kitchener Centre is a significant setback for a party that's trying to make a breakthrough, and actually a party that's really struggling right now.
And Nick, I just want to point out, because we are talking about the NDP in last place in this riding with just 625 votes.
Yeah, and think of it this way. There are a lot of university students around there, so the fact that the Greens are losing this seat, the NDP are not doing well, is really indicative of what's happening tonight.
Okay, let's take a look at Kitchener-Conestoga. Two-horse race here, Nick. The Conservatives in the lead by 592 votes over the Liberal incumbent.
This probably speaks to the organization of the ground on that the Conservative campaign has in terms of them challenging to unseat the Liberal incumbent in Kitchener-Conestoga.
Okay, and Nick, let's talk about vote efficiency. That is what we were talking about earlier, about getting out the vote. Just walk us through this. The Conservatives doing quite well.
So, yeah, think of it this way. With 49% of the votes in southwestern Ontario, they won a whopping 83% of the seats. It speaks to the effective targeting, probably the tour of Pierre Poilievre in southwestern Ontario, and how he's able to convert, a certain number of 49% into like a majority, 8 out of every 10 seats in southwestern Ontario. And you look at the Liberals, not being as efficient in terms of converting their support into seats.
We really see that, Nick, especially when we talk about getting out the vote and how they are campaigning across the country. So if we look at the vote value nationally, it's very similar to the polling information, Nick.
Yeah, it is. Except if you're the New Democrats. Think of it this way. They only converted, their percentage by 1/3, like 6% to 2% in terms of percentage of seats. It shows how inefficient the New Democrats were.
Certainly a very big story unfolding this evening with the New Democrats, and it is seen right there on that vote efficiency. We'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Heather, thank you so much. I want to send it to Geneviève Beauchemin, who's at Liberal headquarters right now. And obviously, you know, positive news for the Liberals, if you're a Liberal, seeing the fact that there is, Geneviève,
generation under Jagmeet Singh, a pharmacare plan that the Conservatives and Liberals had voted against time and time again, and that was only 25. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of work, but New Democrats are used to a lot of work. We're used to doing this, and we are going to hold the Liberal government accountable, and they are going to have to live up to their promises to Canadians to make life more affordable, to make sure that groceries are affordable, to make sure that there is housing and people can afford somewhere to live.
Well, there are a lot of issues there that you just mentioned that I'm sure resonate with many Canadians. Heather McPherson, congratulations again. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much.
Now, Catherine, Heather won this seat pretty firmly back in 2021 with 60% of the vote. We have called it so far for Heather in this moment. Polls are still reporting, but we are looking at about 12 percentage points less at the moment. We'll see where the night takes us.
Really interesting. Thank you very much for that. The CBC's Sam Sampson. And Rosemary, Heather McPherson saying the future of the NDP is in this room. Pretty noteworthy when they have not right now. They don't have official party status, and the party's leader is in trouble in his own riding.
Yeah, and let me show you just that very thing. There you go. Jagmeet Singh continues to trail, continues to be in third place. That's where he's been this night in his riding of Burnaby Central. It had been a concern for the party, and it continues to be so. So we'll see whether Mr. Singh is even able to hang on to his own riding in Burnaby South. And so I'm going to go to Randall Garrison. I brought him out there. So we'll start with the good for you, Heather McPherson. A bit of a star MP for the NDP, frankly. She was re-elected in her riding, but also a loss of Blake Desjardins. And Mr. Singh is in some trouble. What are you thinking tonight?
Well, it's obviously not a happy night for New Democrats, but I think what most New Democrats understand is that this is an election where a lot of our traditional supporters held their noses and said we have to vote for the Liberals to keep Pierre Poilievre out and also to have the strongest possible stance against Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And so they've lent their votes to the Liberal Party this time. But remember, the NDP is still the government in 2 provinces. We're the official opposition in 4 provinces. I still see a path to 12 seats there because the NDP heavily works advanced polls, and everyone knows that. I think we could still end up with 12. I think the Liberals could still end up 12 seats short of a majority. So we could still have a fairly positive outcome. But I'm not trying to say that this is a good night for us.
No, you're not going to sugarcoat it. You're a political scientist and recovering politician.
Recovering both. So, but I think there's room to rebuild from this.
Sure.
And that Canadians will remember that Mark Carney is first and foremost a banker and an investment capitalist. And so when it comes time for the Parliament to try and deal with the trouble that Trump is going to cause for ordinary Canadians, there need to be those voices there to say, what are you actually going to do to make it better for ordinary people? And there'll still be at least 9 or 10, if not 12, New Democrats to raise those questions.
Do you think, though, that Mr. Singh should have, earlier in the campaign, we talked a lot about how Mr. Poilievre should have pivoted, and who knows if that's actually the truth given where the numbers are. But I wonder whether Mr. Singh should have pivoted earlier, whether he should have not suggested that there was some world in which he was going to be Prime Minister and should have pushed more for the balance of power and protecting the things that you're talking about.
Well, it's a very short campaign we've been in, and so pivoting earlier means a week earlier, maybe?
Well, no, starting from that point, maybe.
Well, from the beginning, we had no idea what was going on because of Trump. We had no idea what kind of campaign it was going to be. We had no idea that this big shift would be, whether it would be lasting for Carney or there was a bump. Yeah. So for the first couple of weeks of the campaign, nobody really knew what was happening. And once we did know what was happening, he did shift very quickly.
Right. What happens if he loses a seat?
Well, it's always hard for leaders to lose their seat if they want to stay on as leader. And I'm ultra honest. I don't know whether he'll want to stay on as leader if he loses his seat. Yeah. It's going to be very difficult for him. I know it's been very hard on his family because of the threats that have been made to him. Yeah. And maybe he won't wish to continue. On the other hand, the advanced polls come through. He still wins his seat. We still another whole thing. So that's a story you can't write yet.
No, yeah, that's fair.
And we'll live to see tomorrow where we actually end up.
Okay. Thank you, Randall Garrison. Appreciate you you being forthcoming there as well.
Donc, Karen, c'est très, très, très serré dans beaucoup de circonscriptions au pays. Quand on voit le résultat. Alors, j'ai ma collègue qui est avec Madame May, Anaïs.
Bonjour Patrice, oui, je me trouve à Saanich, Gulf Island avec Madame May. Première entrevue après sa réélection. Madame May, comment vous vous sentez?
Oh, je suis tellement heureuse parce que j'ai gagné le siège encore, mais je suis triste évidemment parce que mon collègue co-chef, Jonathan Nord, n'a pas réussi autrement à cause de la décision de la commission des débats des chefs. Alors avec cette décision, c'est clair actuellement en ce moment que c'est pas possible d'avoir un percé au Québec maintenant. Mais la prochaine fois peut-être, parce que nous sommes en partie avec les politiques importantes pour tous les Canada, particulièrement au Québec. Mais ici, en Saint-Jean-de-Golfe, avec une opposition, avec le vote pour les conservateurs plus haut et aussi pour les libéraux plus haut, et avec une campagne au niveau national comme elle était comme une course des cheval, comme année pour les conservateurs, comme il était une élection pour un premier ministre. Ce n'est pas notre système. Nous ne sommes pas les États-Unis avec 2 partis seulement. Et une élection pour un président. Nous ne sommes pas un pays comme ça. Nous ne sommes pas une démocratie comme ça. Et je suis vraiment fière de mon équipe, mes bénévoles, qui ont fait un job incroyable pour protéger notre siège vert ici à l'île de Vancouver.
Et vous avez justement dit, si c'est un gouvernement minoritaire, vous allez vous assurer de garder le gouvernement imputable. Pouvez-vous nous en dire plus?
J'ai parlé déjà avec le Premier ministre, j'ai parlé avec Mark Carney. Après, les résultats sont clairs que je serai réélu. Et il est quelqu'un il est un ami de longue date. C'est important d'avoir une approche très forte comme opposition pour protéger notre climat, les droits humains, les choses contre le président des États-Unis, de reste des buts contre les politiques de quelqu'un comme lui, quelqu'un fou. Alors je suis absolument prête de protéger les voix des personnes, les autochtones, les personnes ignorées par les grands partis de status quo, comme les libéraux. Maintenant, avec un Premier ministre, avec un mandat, je suis prête de travailler ensemble, mais en même temps de pousser pour les choses importantes que les libéraux à l'histoire bilingue ignorées.
Merci beaucoup, Mme May. Donc, c'était Mme May qui était réélue pour une 5e fois, un 5e mandat. Donc, depuis 2011, elle est représentante de cette circonscription.
Puis elle est heureuse, on la comprend, puis on la salue, Mme May. Donc, voilà les joies de la victoire. On va aller à Trois-Rivières. Louis, vous êtes avec la candidate libérale qui est devenue la nouvelle députée, Caroline Desrochers, la nouvelle députée libérale de Trois-Rivières.
Vous faites bien d'insister là-dessus, Patrice, parce que c'est un moment historique pour Trois-Rivières qui n'a pas eu de député au pouvoir à Ottawa depuis 1993, la fin du règne Mulroney. Et l'autre candidat libéral, le dernier candidat libéral à avoir été élu dans Trois-Rivières, ça remonte à 1980, donc 45 ans. Mais là, il y en a une libérale qui sera députée à Ottawa, Caroline Desrochers. Bon, Madame Desrochers, dites-moi comment vous accueillez, comment vous comprenez cette élection qui est quand même assez décisive.
Écoutez, merci beaucoup. C'est vraiment un honneur, c'est une fierté. Je le vois comme un beau message. Je suis arrivée ici, on le sait, là, au jour 10 de la campagne. Et vraiment, là, je suis allée cogner à toutes les portes. J'ai rencontré tous les secteurs. Puis je pense que je me suis positionnée comme quelqu'un qui est à l'écoute, quelqu'un qui veut faire une différence, quelqu'un qui va être là pour les citoyens. Et puis je pense que les gens ont apprécié ce message-là. Et c'est ça le résultat, je pense, qu'on voit ce soir.
Oui. Pardon, mais dans le contexte qu'on connaît, le fait que sur votre carte de visite, il y avait qu'à Affaires mondiales Canada. Vous étiez affecté aux relations commerciales avec les États-Unis. Est-ce que ça a pu faire une différence aussi?
Oui, je pense qu'absolument. Puis je pense que c'est ça aussi qui est allé chercher l'appui. J'ai pu aller chercher l'appui de plusieurs secteurs de la société. J'ai quand même travaillé longtemps à Washington, mais pas à Washington, mais je suis allée souvent au Congrès américain pour défendre les intérêts des entreprises canadiennes, que ce soit dans l'industrie de l'aluminium, l'industrie du porc, que ce soit la gestion de l'offre. Alors, je pense que ça a résonné pour les gens ici. J'apporte un bagage, j'apporte une expérience qui est pertinente pour la région.
Dernière chose, hier, une électrice vous le demandait, allez-vous déménager dans la région parce que vous êtes de l'Outaouais?
Bien, je suis originaire de Montréal. Ça fait longtemps que je suis en Outaouais, mais oui, absolument, il faut être ici, il faut être... il y a le travail à Ottawa, mais il y a le travail aussi. C'est important d'être près des électeurs pour bien les servir.
Merci, Madame la députée, qui est accompagnée d'ailleurs de sa mère. Alors voilà, Patrice, et pour ce qui est d'Yves Lévesque, le conservateur, très, très déçu. Il a dit, j'ai offert ma disponibilité aux électeurs qui l'ont refusé. Maintenant, la porte reste ouverte pour lui d'un retour aux élections municipales, ou à Shawinigan ou à Trois-Rivières. Les deux lui seraient accessibles.
Il lâche pas, mais c'est bien. Louis, merci beaucoup. Et on salue la nouvelle députée, on salue sa mère, on salue tout le monde à Trois-Rivières. Merci de ce contexte. Alors, on va faire un certain nombre d'élus. Burlington, Karina Gould, qui est réélue donc dans Burlington.
Depuis 1984, Burlington vote du bon côté, vote pour le gouvernement. C'est la circonscription baromètre au pays.
Ah oui.
Alors, encore une fois, c'était le cas ce soir, qui a fait, Mme Gould, une bonne campagne, même si elle est arrivée très loin derrière. Anita Anand, dans Oakville-Est, qui est réélue également. Donc, les pays d'en haut, Saint-Sauveur, Marin Heights, Tim Watchhorn, qui était jusqu'à aujourd'hui maire de Marin Heights, qui deviendra député de cette nouvelle circonscription. Voilà. Donc, on est à 160, 151. Je reprends, je fais du pouce sur ce que vous disiez, Jean-François, tout à l'heure. Je vais vous entendre chacun. À 160, si ça restait comme ça, le Bloc québécois, malgré les pertes, c'est quand même un scénario rêvé, parce que le NPD n'a pas la balance du pouvoir, même si vous ajoutez le vert. Là.
Oui. Et en fait, ça met Yves-François Blanchet dans une situation de pouvoir assez sans précédent. Parce que, donc, il devra doser le niveau de sa menace de faire tomber le gouvernement, ce qui est toujours le cas quand on a la balance du pouvoir. Alors, évidemment, il y a le numéro de cellulaire de M. Carney. M. Carney, peut-être, j'espère qu'il lui a donné le vrai, parce que ça arrive qu'on nous donne des faux numéros. Je ne sais pas si ça vous est arrivé, Patrice. Non. Oui, bon. Pourtant, je vous avais donné mon faux numéro. Mais écoutez, quand est-ce qu'il va utiliser l'arme atomique? Est-ce que c'est si, dans la négociation commerciale, il y a un largage de la gestion de l'offre? Est-ce que c'est parce que M. Carney s'entête à convaincre la Cour suprême d'empêcher le Québec d'utiliser la clause dérogatoire? Est-ce que c'est sur autre chose? Quelle sera la liste de ces conditions non négociables pour appuyer le discours du trône?
Avoir du pouvoir, ça vient avec la responsabilité.
Ça vient avec une énorme, comme disait l'oncle de Spider-Man. Oui, avec
énorme pouvoir, énorme responsabilité.
Et ça va être intéressant de voir comment il va jouer ça.
Mais il a clairement dit la semaine dernière que s'il était le balance du pouvoir dans un gouvernement minoritaire, il ne le ferait pas tomber à court terme. Et moi, je pense qu'il y aurait intérêt à ne pas le faire. Je pense qu'au contraire, il pourrait, puis surtout avec M. Carney, je crois qu'il serait capable de négocier effectivement des choses pour le Québec et de, en tout cas, certainement, convaincre M. Carney, par exemple, sur la gestion de l'offre ou sur d'autres choses. Alors moi, je pense qu'il est gagnant en ne faisant pas tomber le...
Je vous rajoute un élément, ce qui va mettre encore davantage en furie l'Alberta.
Oui. Exactement. Be careful what you wish for. Comme disent mes collègues, Monsieur Blanchet demandait cette balance du pouvoir, mais je pense pas qu'il pensait vraiment, c'était juste pour avoir des députés. Là, il l'obtient probablement. Balance du pouvoir qu'il avait techniquement et en 2019 et en 2021, mais qui était complètement inefficace, ineffective, parce que les libéraux voulaient toujours être avec le NPD. Et là, je me demande, je parlais tout à l'heure de cette colère de l'Ouest face à un 4e mandat libéral trop à gauche, parce qu'on était accoquinés avec le NPD. Ben, je me demande quelle sera cette colère quand on va voir qu'on s'acoquine avec des séparatistes.
Énorme.
Exact.
Il y a quelque chose là, à l'horizon, dans la fracture canadienne.
La fracture, c'était une des questions du débat, la fracture canadienne, parce que ça risque de réagir en Alberta, parce que là, le NPD ne peut pas avoir la balance du pouvoir.
Si les chiffres ne bougent pas, c'est une pomme empoisonnée pour les libéraux, parce que dès qu'ils vont faire une entente avec les bloquistes, les conservateurs, les néo-démocrates et même les Verts vont dire, vous voyez, ils s'allient avec le diable, parce que dans le reste du Canada, les bloquistes ne devraient même pas être à Ottawa. Ils sont souverainistes, ne devraient pas être à la Chambre des communes. Et donc, ça va être compliqué pour les libéraux de se maintenir au pouvoir aussi longtemps qu'ils ont été capables de le faire avec le NPD, où il y avait une alliance là, qui était naturelle. Sur beaucoup de politiques publiques, les libéraux et les bloquistes sont capables de s'entendre. C'est dans le symbole que ça va envoyer à chaque fois, si on s'entend, que là, ça va grincer des dents ailleurs. Pour Mark Carney, ça va être compliqué.
Oui, il y a la vraie vie là-dedans. La vraie vie, là, c'est mettre au défi les partis d'opposition de traverser. Moi, j'étais dans un gouvernement minoritaire. On n'a pas fait d'alliance et on s'est entendu pour faire adopter nos projets de loi à la pièce, en consultant les gens. Les gens disaient oui, non, peut-être, négocier avec le 3e, le 6e, puis on a avancé comme ça. On n'était pas brillants, mais c'est comme ça qu'on l'a pris.
Vous étiez un nouveau gouvernement.
Mais lui,
c'est pareil, là, c'est un 4e mandat.
Oui, mais tu as un nouveau premier ministre.
Exactement.
Ça va dépendre de M. Carney. C'est lui qui va avoir...
Bien brave, Patrice.
Tout à fait.
Bien brave, le chef qui va faire trébucher M. Carney dans les premiers mois, nous faire retourner, dépenser 45 millions bien brave.
François, je vais entendre François.
Tout vient perdre 9 comtés.
Tout dépend de l'enjeu.
On n'en parle pas de ça.
Et là, on est dans le compte à rebours. On est dans le compte à rebours pour l'élection québécoise de 2026. Ça compte.
Françoise, sur cette question-là.
Michael touche un point auquel j'allais aborder. Arrêtez-moi ça, le Bloc gagne rien ce soir. Il perd 9 sièges sur 33. Il sauve les meubles, je suis d'accord. Mais après ça, on se transpose du côté de Mark Carney. Dans ce contexte-là, puis avec la difficulté en termes d'image par rapport à l'Ouest, il y a du travail à faire, Mark Carney. Là,
mais moi, je suis pas d'accord. François, c'est comme votre vague orange de 2011. Ah oui, vous aviez plein de députés, mais ça a donné absolument rien. On est en situation majoritaire. Vous avez eu au NPD beaucoup plus de pouvoir avec votre vingtaine de sièges en situation minoritaire. Alors, des fois, on peut avoir moins de sièges, comme c'est le cas du Bloc, et gagner plus de pouvoir. C'est exactement ce qui se produit.
Je dis pas le contraire. Là, ce que je dis, c'est premièrement, là, le Bloc doit quand même réaliser qu'il a perdu 9 sièges.
Ah oui, bien sûr.
Alors, quand tu regardes en pourcentage,
il a perdu quantitativement, mais il a gagné qualitativement. Ça fait toute la différence.
Il a gagné plus de pouvoir. Même en ayant perdu 9 sièges, il va avoir plus de pouvoir.
Sauf si le gouvernement décide de ne pas rien faire avec eux.
Il n'y a pas le choix. Il n'y a pas le choix. Il n'y a pas de majorité.
Il y a le choix, Jean-François, je m'excuse.
Il y a le choix de caler le bluff. Mais à l'approche de 2026, caler le bluff sur une question identitaire.
Ah ben là, ça va dépendre des...
Très bien, Louis. Est-ce que M. Carney, est-ce qu'on va l'entendre avant demain matin?
The first question, will he be in the House of Commons? Yes. Because I keep looking at those results in Carleton, and I'm waiting for them to find the stack of votes that puts him back on top. Yeah. There are still lots of polls in Carleton that have not been counted.
But he has not led that race yet.
Oh, he is significantly behind. It's not a close race at this point.
Yeah. Jason Kenney, we snuck Jason Kenney in there because I also heard Jamil Javani say your name as someone who is a conservative that he likes and points to as someone who is able to bring people together. What did you make of that? And like, there is obviously a problem here between Ford conservatives and Poilievre conservatives, and I don't know if it matters, but there's some deep animosity.
Well, there are certainly some personal differences, and to state the obvious, I have a firm grasp of the obvious. By which I mean, I think this is actually much more personal than it is ideological or factional.
Okay.
You know, every party has certain issue factions and personality factions. In this case, there seem to be 2 or 3 personalities that have really ramped up what I think is an unnecessary conflict. that simply needs to get resolved.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know Jamil, for whom I have enormous regard. He's a incredibly talented a guy with an amazing story.
Yes.
He has a particular, a particular series of grievances. And I just, none of this should have been in the public domain. Let's put it that way.
No, for sure.
And I agree there should have been earlier efforts to engage those get those relationships well settled much earlier. But it's not like there's a huge rift. Most of the people going door to door for federal Conservative candidates in the last 5 weeks were going door to door for Doug Ford's candidates a few weeks before that. And you know what? The Ontario PC critique has been that Poilievre's team doesn't know how to win in Ontario. He's right now over 45% of the popular vote. Mr. Ford won 43% of the popular vote earlier this year. So the federal Conservative campaign is getting a better result, a larger total raw vote count, and a higher share of the popular vote.
Yeah.
That's nothing to sneeze at. And I think so a little bit of everybody has to put some water in their wine and put the best interests of the country first.
Yeah.
And maybe the common interests of partisan Conservatives somewhere in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Pierre Poilievre had called Doug Ford right from the get-go, the same way that Mark Carney did, he went and had breakfast with him, it probably would have helped. Whether it matters at this stage, I don't know.
Well, remember, it's not just Poilievre versus Ford. It's Poilievre versus Tim Houston in Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
And it seemed like there were a series of candidates who looked like they could be perfectly acceptable and presentable candidates for the party who just didn't fit in with the Poilievre clique.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike DeJong in BC, why was he not allowed to be a candidate? So, you know, it's one thing, yeah, you can have a tent that's too broad and you lose all definition and you don't stand for anything, but you can have a tent that's too narrow and you just wind up defeating yourself.
Okay, I want to go to Conservative Party headquarters, if we can. Maybe. Possibly.
Much, Anne-Marie. Lots of things to keep our eyes on.
That's just a look inside the room where, yeah, that's what it looks like when you have not won an election and you're waiting to see more. Let's go to Kate McKenna, who's, I imagine, been talking to people and getting a sense of how people are feeling in that room tonight. Kate, yes, they haven't won, but it does look like they have improved over what they got in the last vote. But tell me what people are telling you.
Well, what your guest just mentioned about the federal Conservatives doing better in Ontario than the provincial Conservatives did, that's something that the campaign has been going around talking about. That's something that is very much being discussed in this room. And yes, they are losing. They're aware that they're losing. However, they're happy. Well, I wouldn't say they're happy, but they're encouraged by their gains that they've made. They're encouraged by the amount of popular vote that they're getting. But of course, one thing that's hanging in this room is that Pierre Poilievre has not won his seat yet. In fact, he appears to be trailing in his seat. We are hearing that he is set to talk in a few minutes, but they did play the Jamil Jivani interview here at the same time. Obviously, it was on the CBC broadcast, and there was a lot of applause in the room for the things that he was saying. There was a lot of hollering and cheers for the people in this room who feel that Doug Ford's interventions in this campaign were not helpful, and they did not advance the Conservative cause in this very competitive election. So this ongoing rift appears to still be taking place within this party, and we'll be watching to see how it manifests over the next few days.
Okay, Kate McKenna, thank you so much for that. I'm going to now go to Ian Hannah-Mansing, who's got some results. Ian.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at Greater Vancouver and see how the NDP are doing there in terms of seat change, first of all. So we'll put that up on the screen, I hope, or if we don't, then I will, yeah, there we go. So this is vote change in Greater Vancouver, and you see the Liberals are up. The Conservatives are up. This is a pattern we've seen in other parts of the country as well, and you can see that this is at the expense of the NDP. Now, hours ago, when we looked at New Brunswick, this kind of vote change didn't really affect seats at all, but in Greater Vancouver, it is affecting seats. Let's take a look, first of all, at Port Moody, Coquitlam. This is more or less a three-way race in 2021. This time around, the NDP has plummeted from having won this riding. Bonnie Zerillo is the incumbent MP. You can see she's not only in third place, she's in a distant third place, and it's put the Conservatives in first. Arguably, the progressive vote, the left of center vote, has been split just enough between the NDP and the Liberals to allow the Conservatives to come up through the middle. And take a look at this. New Westminster, Burnaby, Millardville. Peter Julian, one of the mainstays of the NDP for so many years. He's been the MP here since 2004. And he is in third place. And again, easy even for me to do the math between the Liberals and the NDP. If someone had been able to consolidate those numbers on the center left, that would easily win. But in both of those cases, Rosemary, at this point, arguably, it has allowed once again the Conservatives to come up through the middle. Now, those aren't elected yet, but it is interesting and it helps explain why the numbers look the way they do, particularly in BC at this point in the evening.
Okay, thank you for that, Ian. I want to go back to Jason Kenney, if I can. Just to ask you this question, shortly we're going to hear from Jagmeet Singh. That's the little box there at the bottom of your screen. So we're also going to bring in Randall Garrison in a moment so he can respond to some of what Mr. Singh is saying. But if Pierre Poilievre ends up with a bigger number of seats than the last vote, 149, 150, put aside whether he's going to win his riding, where he is still trailing, but put that aside. How does the Conservative Party view that? Does he have the ability to stay? What do you think is going to happen there? And then if you want to throw in the thing about the riding, I don't know whether this is real, but he hasn't led at all night.
Yeah, well, look, I can't comment on the riding. Sure. I will just say that I think Mr. Poilievre, if he decides to stay as leader and leader of the opposition, he will have overwhelming support to do so. I don't see any faction or group within the party egging for a new leadership. I think the party realizes changing leaders every 3 or 4 years is counterproductive. And I think, on the merits here, right now, 42% of the popular vote nationally. The last time the Conservatives achieved that was under Brian Mulroney 37 years ago in 1988. Growth in new cohorts of supporters in a broader Conservative coalition that includes younger voters than typical, apparently doing very well in communities of new Canadians. And one of the most interesting things, I talked earlier about the sort of blue-collar swing that we seem to be observing towards Conservatives. Conservatives are winning in Windsor, Tecumseh, Windsor West, one of the Sudbury seats. We almost won Hamilton. We're competitive in Hamilton Centre. I've never seen that. These are long-time traditional NDP. So the NDP swing was, as I know it's fashionable around here to refer to the progressive bloc. A lot of traditional NDP voters wouldn't regard themselves as on the left. They're for the little guy. Sure. And Pierre Poilievre has been fighting for the little guy. He broadened the Conservative coalition in that way. And picked up apparently at least 30 seats. So, and finally, he has been, in my judgment, the most effective opposition leader in our lifetime. Some might say too effective, such an effective opposition leader that he became typecast as in that role.
And he also got rid of the very things that were going to help him, Justin Trudeau and a carbon tax. I mean, that was his own success brought that to him as well.
More than that, look, I mean, I heard my friend Arif here dismissively referring to Mr. Poilievre's 3-word slogans. Look, he created the issue matrix that has been dominating Canadian politics for the past 2 years around affordability, the cost of living, housing, immigration, much of it represented, yes, by the carbon tax. He's also taken some principled and courageous positions. I think he took on the Liberals on their class warfare baiting on the capital gains tax increase. I believe he's the only leader who in French and English pointedly opposed the Quebec Bill 21 law against religious symbols in Quebec. Did somebody else?
No, don't go there. No. He didn't. He actually has fudged whether he would intervene in the Supreme Court on it. So
I heard his clear opposition to it. So my point.
He says he's opposed to it, but he doesn't say
what
he would do about it.
I think he ran a substantive campaign. He set up the issue set. He helped to defenestrate Justin Trudeau. And he's got the best result for a Conservative leader since 1988.
Okay, and I take all those points, and they're excellent points, and I'm going to let Jagmeet Singh speak in a moment, except that wasn't the bar. The bar was 25 points ahead, and you were going to form government. And you're telling me no one in the party is going to be angry with him?
Oh, there's going to be a desire for sure for a retrospective. And I think any leader after this circumstance should show some humility, should take a step back. And I think the important thing is, does a leader have the ability to learn and to grow? I think we've seen him modify his tone, his approach, his issue focus over the past several months. I think that demonstrates such an ability. He'll have to demonstrate that to the party, but I don't see anybody gunning for his job.
Yeah, I'm not saying his leadership's in any trouble, but he needs to reflect on why he's not going to be Prime Minister tomorrow, because a large part of it was the leadership. The leader was the biggest liability for the party. The strategy that the party pursued, at least for the first part of the campaign, was clearly wrong. He bears responsibility for that. So he should clearly have to answer some questions to the party.
It's also very dangerous to take for granted for both the Liberals and the Conservatives that the NDP weakness in this election is something that will be permanent. On the contrary, I don't know what Mr. Singh is going to say, but at this point, it's not really hard to imagine that it could be stronger with a stronger leader than it has been over the past 3 elections.
Althea?
Well, the ridings that you mentioned are three-way races, that they're not, that the Conservatives got in through the middle because of the progressive vote splitting. But I get your point, especially in the 905, where I think Pierre Poilievre did a really good job, especially on the crime stuff. I think the reason that he's going to have trouble, whether or not he wants to stay, is the interview that we just saw with Jamil Javani. That aggressive tone really does not sit well with a significant chunk of the caucus that has been reelected. And we will find out as soon as the first caucus meeting whether or not they decide to approve the Reform Acts, and the caucus gives itself the power to decide whether or not Pierre Poilievre stays. And I think that will be a way for them to negotiate, because I think there are things that they would like. One MP called it the end of the reign of terror. Basically, they want Jenny Byrne gone. And if the result is low enough, they will set conditions to say, you want to stay, well, these are the changes we want to see.
Okay, quickly, Mr. Kenney, because I'm going to go to Mr. Singh.
Yeah, I would say, look, I think there are legitimate questions around tone.
Yeah.
And I think, amongst other things, if he had made an effort to more clearly position to auditioning for the role of Prime Minister rather than opposition leader late last year, it could have been marginally helpful. I don't think it would have changed the fundamental structure of this election. In the way things unfolded.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason Kenney. Let's go to Jagmeet Singh. He's there in his riding in British Columbia. I should tell you that right now, as things stand, Mr. Singh is well behind in his own riding. He is in third with 4,000 votes. The other two far ahead. So things not looking good for him in his own riding tonight. And as we've shown you there, the NDP not even official party status. Let's listen in live.
We're good. Thank you. Thank you. That was very nice, very sweet of you all. Thank you so much. You're gonna get me all choked up here, guys. Got to keep it together here, folks. Thank you very much. The love is amazing. I appreciate y'all. Big thank you to Suzanne. She's been with us from the beginning. Huge thank you. Appreciate her so much. Thank you, thank you. And all of you in this room, you guys poured your heart into this. Thank you so much for everything you've done. You're amazing. Love you all. And I know in election parties, night parties across the country, people are gathered. I want to thank them all for all their hard work. They're amazing people gathered together across the country. I want to take a moment to congratulate Prime Minister Carney on his victory. He has an important job to do, to represent all Canadians and to protect our country and its sovereignty from the threats of Donald Trump. Tonight and every night, all of us here, we're on Team Canada. We want Canada to thrive, and we're going to continue to fight for Canada. I want to congratulate all the other leaders on a hard-fought campaign. It's been the honor of my life to represent the people of Burnaby Central. Tonight they chose, thank you. Tonight they chose a new member of parliament, and I wish them well as they continue to work hard for this community. Obviously, I know this night is a disappointing night for New Democrats. We had really good candidates that lost tonight. I know how hard you worked. I spent time with you. You're amazing. I'm so sorry you're not going to be able to represent your communities. I know you're going to continue to fight for them. I know on how many doors you knocked, how many family dinners you missed, how many nights your kids went to bed without you there to tuck them in. I know it was a tough sacrifice, and I just want to thank, and we can get a round of applause to every single candidate that went for us. Thank you. Yeah. Thank all those incredible candidates and their incredible teams, because no candidate can do it without a team. The volunteers, the staff, thank you to all those candidates and their incredible staffs. One more time. Choosing to commit your life to politics obviously comes with some sacrifice, but we choose this life because of the chance to change the country we love for the better. We may lose sometimes, and those losses hurt, it's tough. But we are only defeated if we stop fighting. We're only defeated when we believe that those that tell us that we can never dream of a better Canada, a fairer Canada, a more compassionate Canada. I have met New Democrats from coast to coast to coast who will never back down, even when they're told that there's no room for them at the table. We make room for everyone because we believe that there is enough wealth in Canada for all of us to live the life that we deserve. Honestly, I got to avoid making eye contact with certain people because then it's going to get too emotional up here. So I just made the mistake of doing that, so I'm going to look away now. You know who you are. Don't look at me again. Almost 8 years ago, I was elected the leader of this incredible party, this incredible movement. I've worked really hard to be worthy of this trust, to live up to the legacy of our movement. Hold on a second, guys. Thank you. One more sec. Tonight, I've been informed our party leader that I'll be stepping down as party leader as soon as an interim leader can be appointed. Now, I could not have done this incredible job without, here's a point, give me a second to break down a bit. I couldn't have done it without the incredible support of my wife, Kirkinen. She has been my rock. She's been my foundation. For the past couple of years, I've been regretting that I didn't thank her on the night of the last election. So this is my opportunity to make up for it. She has literally been my rock. I couldn't have done this without her. She's backed me up and supported me. She has made so many sacrifices. She convinced me that she's enjoyed them all, but I don't know. But she's amazing. I'm just so thankful. Thanks for being on this journey. I'm going to give you a hug. Hold on. Also, I might break down this part because, and Anhad and Dani, my daughters, remind me of the future. God damn it, that we are fighting for. That's just because I get emotional anytime I talk about my kids. I'm very sappy when it comes to my daughter, so I get a little emotional. I've also been supported by my family, and I got to thank my parents who are here today. They're amazing. Love you both. My brother, I wouldn't have been on this journey without my brother. So big shout out to my brother, Cotton. And honestly, this may sound funny, but my in-laws, I literally couldn't have done this without my in-laws. They're amazing. Where are my in-laws? They're somewhere here. Wherever they are, they're here. I wanted to look at them and point at them too. Oh, there they are. Yeah, I couldn't have done it without them. Literally, if you're a parent, you know how important your parents are, and your in-laws too, it turns out. So, huge thank you. They've supported us. They've kept me grounded. Given us great advice. I'm so thankful to my family. You can't do this work without great people, and you can't do this without a great family supporting you. So thank you to my family. I'm spilling my water and everything. It's getting a little bit, trying to be graceful here, folks. I also want to thank my NDP caucus. This is a team that together we brought historic change for people. We brought real change to the lives of Canadians. I know that people are concretely better off because of our work over the last 8 years, and no election result will ever diminish that. So thank you to my my caucus, honestly, I'm so thankful to them all. We did some incredible work together. Seriously, every one of you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I might break down this part too, forgive me if I do. I can only do this, and we can only do this work because of a great staff. And y'all just poured your heart into me, into the work that we did. So good thing that there's water here. This water is very strategically placed for me, so it's very lucky that I might need a couple more glasses, so just, if anyone can help me out on that, that'd be great. Y'all brought your talent, your heart to the fight every day. We treat each other with respect and dignity and with kindness, and I love you all. We're almost there, folks. I got a couple other things I really want to get off my chest here. One other thing is, nothing's too spicy. It's just good stuff. I often speak about something my mom taught me. It's the Sikh teaching of Chardi Kala. And this is something fundamental to who I am. And it means, the words break down, Chardi means rising, and Kala means spirits. And it's something that it captures a big part of who I am. And it's the idea that in the fight for justice, in the fight for fairness, in the fight that we fight, we want to have optimism in the face of struggle. We want to have a defiant optimism. It's like this eternal resilience. And this is the spirit that I carry tonight. Obviously, I'm disappointed that we could not win more seats. But I'm not disappointed in our movement. I'm hopeful for our party. I know that we will always choose hope over fear, and optimism over despair, and unity over hate. New Democrats literally built this country. New Democrats built this country. We have built the best of Canada, and we aren't going anywhere. Thank you so much. Love you all. You're amazing. Merci infiniment. Appreciate it so much. Appreciate you all so much. Thank you. You're amazing. Love you all. Every one of you. You're amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, that is Jagmeet Singh. conceding, first of all, his own riding of Burnaby South, where he continues to be in third place, and announcing that he will step down as leader as soon as a new interim leader can be chosen. He was the leader of the NDP since 2017. Marina von Stackelberg is in the room there. Marina, obviously a very emotional room, and I must say, a very gracious speech by Jagmeet Singh tonight.
Yeah, this was really the worst case scenario for the NDP, this idea that Jagmeet Singh would not be able to hold on to his own seat, that there would be severe losses for the party, which is how this is panning out. You know, throughout this campaign, one thing that we've heard from supporters and from his team was that a lot of progressive voters that would have voted for the NDP were scared. They were scared of Trump. They were scared of a Poilievre majority, and so they were going towards Mark Carney's Liberals. And you know, the party tells me that they feel like if they would have had a bit more time to explain to people that this would cause vote splitting. This is what we've seen is several, you know, big name NDP MPs potentially or actually losing their seat because of vote splitting. The party clearly saw this was a potential issue. They actually started a whole campaign about it here in BC, saying vote for NDP to prevent Conservatives from getting seats. So obviously this is a huge loss for this party. One staffer I spoke to earlier today, we were talking about the potential outcome, said for her, it was something that no matter how it shook up, they had helped to get dental care. They had made dental care happen. And for them, that was something they were going to hold on to. That was something that the NDP pushed to with just 24 MPs in the House of Commons. But obviously, this leaves this party in really the worst situation. The last time they lost official party status was in the 90s. And this is so important for a political party. It allows you questions in the House of Commons. It allows you, you know, to be in committees, to get staff. And so where this now is really going to be the question.
Okay, Marina von Stackelberg live there in British Columbia. Of course, I said Burnaby South. It's Burnaby Central is the riding where Jagmeet Singh has lost his own seat. Thank you, Marina. Appreciate that. I'm going to go to Randall Garrison there. I will say, if you're going to lose and have a devastating night and still act that gracious in your loss, that speaks to the humanity of these leaders and certainly of Mr. Singh. Speaking about the sacrifices people have made, he himself also has made, and now that he's stepping down. Are you surprised about the fact that he's leaving?
No, and I said just a few minutes ago, I guess, on the air, that it was too early to write the story, but I was pretty sure this is the story we would be writing.
Yeah.
I supported Jagmeet early on because of the kind of person he is and the compassion he shows to others, which he demonstrated in the speech, but also calling on Canadians to get behind the winner of this election to get us through these difficult times. An enormously difficult thing to do when you've lost.
Totally, yeah.
And so I give him high praise for that. I wasn't certain he would resign tonight, but I did think he would resign.
Yeah,
given the outcome. Now, I said earlier, where does the party go from here? Well, we still don't have a majority government here, and even if there are only somewhere between 8 and 12 New Democrats there, they may have a key role to play. And even if there's a small majority, they'll still have a key role to play in all those things that Jagmeet has talked about that are important to ordinary Canadians and the cost of living, housing, healthcare, all those things that are traditional priorities of the NDP will still be problems that the new parliament has to grapple with.
And not to take anything away from that legacy and the legacy of Mr. Singh, but we've come a long way from Jack Layton and official opposition to now. And I wonder why that is. I wonder and what you think the party has to do to get back to a place of growth where people don't see it as a protest vote or a vote to park, but as a real alternative, a viable party.
Well, I think, as I said earlier, I believe that this is a temporary setback for the NDP in terms of people aren't saying we reject what the NDP put in the window as an offer. They've just simply said we have a bigger crisis here. Right. And for this election, we are going to make a choice for a strong leader in the face of Trump. Yeah. And so I think that's what's happened. So can the NDP, come back from this? Yes, I think they can. There's always the danger when you shrink back that certain protest moments or groups or things will try to take control of the party and keep it away from the mainstream, which leads to success, not just for the party, but for Canadians who believe in those values. And so I think that will be a challenge for the party in its reduced circumstances. But I have no doubt that we'll meet that challenge and be able to move forward probably as soon as the next election, which may be very soon, if this is indeed a minority government.
Randall Garrison, thank you for coming all the way from British Columbia to help us with our coverage. I know it's not fun to have a disappointing night and have to talk about it, but you also were very gracious.
It is not, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. Apart from the obviously bad outcome, it's been fun.
Okay. Good.
Other than that,
yeah. Appreciate that, Randall
Thank
Garrison.
you.
Yes, David.
Roseanne, just getting word from the Liberal campaign that Mark Carney intends to speak in the next 30 minutes. So we should hear from him in the next 30 minutes or so on wherever this is going to end up tonight.
Okay, and there on the bottom of your screen there in that small box is Pierre Poilievre's headquarters, the Conservative headquarters. We are going to hear from him in just moments. And there he is with his wife, Anna Poilievre, who has been by his side throughout this campaign, really a vital part of the campaign to try and get people's support and to show a more personal side of him. Let me show you where Pierre Poilievre is in his riding of Carleton at this hour. Remember, unusual things going on in that riding because of the longest ballot campaign. There are 91 people on the ballot, but Pierre Poilievre has not led once in the course of this evening in his own riding. And the Liberal there, Bruce Fanjoy, is ahead by more than 2,000 votes. So that is something to watch for sure. Not calling anything there, but not very encouraging for Mr. Poilievre tonight. Let's listen in.
Merci. Merci,
Thank you.
chers Canadiens.
Dear Canadians,
Je vous aime aussi. I love you too. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's with profound gratitude that I stand before you today at the moment of this historic election. Because only in Canada could the story that Anna and I bring to the stage be possible. Adopted son of school teachers and a Venezuelan refugee, stand on this stage in front of our proud country, offering ourselves up to serve for the future. After millions of people have shown up and marked their X, spoken their voice, and exercised their democratic rights. We could not be more proud. We could not be more grateful for the opportunity the Canadians have given us. And speaking now of Anna, I want to take a moment to thank my incredible wife. She's been by my side. She's my rock. I love and cherish you and our little ones more than you'll ever know. And I could not have done any of this without you. Thank you so much. I love you. Now, my message to Canadians. The promise that was made to me and to all of you is that anybody from anywhere could achieve anything, that through hard work, you could get a great life, you could have a nice, affordable home on a safe street. My purpose in politics is and will continue to be to restore that promise. Thank you. To the candidates who ran under our banner as Conservatives, to the volunteers who knocked on the doors, made phone calls, put up lawn signs, rallied at our events, donated their hard-earned money to our cause, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. To the millions of people who voted for the Conservative Party and put their hopes and dreams in our vision, thank you. It will be an honor to continue to fight for you and to be a champion of your cause as we go forward. Ça serait un grand honneur de continuer de me
It would be a great honor to continue to fight for you, because it has been an honor to be your voice, to fight for conservative values, the values for which you voted, and it will be an honor to continue to try and restore the promise of Canada, that anyone who works hard can have a great life in an affordable home, in a safe community. That is our vision, and we will bring it home.
To my fellow Conservatives, we have much to celebrate tonight. We've gained well over 20 seats. We got the highest share of vote our party has received since 1988. We denied the NDP and Liberals enough seats to form a coalition government, meaning and we did all of this in a very difficult. It takes time, it takes work, and that's why we have to learn the lessons of tonight so that we can have an even better result the next time the Canadians decide the future for the country. Canadians have opted for a razor-thin minority government, a virtual tie in the vote count. So I would like to congratulate Prime Minister Carney on leading this minority government. We'll have plenty of opportunity to debate and disagree, but tonight we come together as Canadians. We will do our job. Yes, we will do our job to hold the government to account. But first, we congratulate people from all political backgrounds on participating in the democratic process. And as I said, while we will do our constitutional duty of holding government to account and proposing better alternatives, we will always put Canada first as we stare down tariffs and other irresponsible threats from President Trump. Conservatives will work with the Prime Minister and all parties with the common goal of defending Canada's interests and getting a new trade deal that puts these tariffs behind us while protecting our sovereignty and the Canadian people. I want to thank my Conservative team, my caucus, my members of the Conservative staff and others who've helped reshape the entire political landscape in this country. Conservatives have achieved major breakthroughs tonight. We brought in record support from blue-collar and unionized workers, youth, new Canadians. We gave voices to countless people across this country who've been left out and left behind for far too long. We won the big debates of our time on the carbon tax, on inflation, on housing, on the drug crisis, on crime. Conservatives have been leading the debate, and we will continue to put forward the best arguments to improve the lives of our people right across this country. But we will not stop there. Every single day, our Conservative caucus and I will be holding the government to account on behalf of the millions of Canadians who believed in the message of change. En tant que parti,
as a party, we have definitely expanded our support, and every single day the Conservative caucus and myself will be working hard in Ottawa to force the government to account on behalf of millions of Canadians who decided to vote for real change. I had the honor of crisscrossing this country to speak to thousands of people who shared their concerns, their suffering, their despair with me.
Took precious time out of their day to tell me about their struggles, their pain, their fears, but also their hopes and dreams. Welders and waitresses, farmers and factory workers, seniors, small business owners and single mothers, young Canadians and young families pleading for the chance to own a home, parents who worried that their kids would never be able to move out of their home, grandparents who saw their grandchildren suffering from the shortfalls of our economy, and countless others who are afraid to go outside because of the rising wave of crime. All of these stories touched my heart and gave me inspiration to work towards something better. These people continue to need voices, and I will continue to fight for them every day, and every day we will never give up on fighting for the Canadian people. Thank you. We hear your stories. We will carry those stories with us into Parliament. We will not forget the people for whom we work and for whom we fight every day. Now, I know that some of you might be disappointed that change did not get over the finish line tonight. Change takes time. Most of all, it requires that we never give up, because our people and our country are worth fighting for. Je vous ai entendu.
Heard you, and I carried your stories with me throughout this campaign, and your stories will remain with me as I fight with my Conservative team to defend you and to advance your interests. To those who desperately need change, I know that you're disappointed. Change is difficult and it takes time, particularly because we must now never stop. The people of Canada deserve that we continue to fight for them.
Who voted for other parties. And so, my message tonight, for the single mother working 2 jobs but still has an empty fridge and an empty bank account, for the young people who despair at never being able to afford a home, for the seniors on fixed incomes whose savings are eroded by inflation and no longer feel safe in their local neighborhood parks, for those who are now living in fear and terror because of crime, for those worried about losing their jobs because of unacceptable tariffs from the United States of America, for all of those who feel left behind and forgotten, my message is one of hope. Change will take time, but we will fight for that change, and we will deliver that change, and we will never give up on fighting for the great Canadian promise that anyone from anywhere can achieve anything, that hard work gets you a great life in a beautiful house on a safe street protected by our brave troops under our proud flag. Canada first, Canada always. Let's bring it home. Thank you very much, Canada. Merci beaucoup, Canada.
Yeah, we fight for what's right. We're wild and we're free from the mountains. When he was a kid, he'd be up at 5, take shots till 8, and make the thing drive. Out after school and back on ice. That was his life. He was gonna play in the big league. The big league. Now many ways out of this cold northern town. You work in the nail and get laid in the ground. And if you're gonna jump, it'll be with the game. Real fast and tough is the only clear lane to the big league.
In first place, Mark Carney with 131,674 votes. Vive le Canada!
Mark Carney n'a pas perdu de temps après son entrée en poste pour abolir la tarification fédérale sur le carbone.
Elbows up, Canada.
Do you know how refreshing it is for people to think a politician is boring?
Comme on a quelqu'un qui a gradué avec un doctorat en finance à Oxford.
The Liberal plan is a good plan.
C'est quoi le nom du groupe d'humoristes de l'animateur Guillaume Lepage? Qui est en...
Oh, Crockett Better, so.
Ouais!
Oh!
Bravo!
It sounds like damning with faint praise, but I think you're reasonable. We need more adults, dude.
OK. Ce métier est plus fun.
Mais quand même, vous semblez avoir un bon sens de l'humour pour un économiste.
Pour un économiste.
Oui.
Nous avons une stratégie très claire. Nos contre-tarifs auront un impact maximal aux États-Unis et minimal ici au Canada.
We do have some breaking news out of Canada. Prime Minister there, Mark Carney, delivering a response.
In a crisis, it's important to come together, and it's essential to act with purpose and with force. And that's what we will do.
Monsieur Carney, est-ce qu'on veut devenir le 51e État des États-Unis?
Jamais. Jamais.
Recently, at one of your rallies, a lady shouted out, "Lead us, Big Daddy." And people say you have...
I've never met that woman before.
Yes, Big Daddy!
I'm supposed to go back the way I came in, but I think I'm going to go back that way.
But let me ask you, Mr. Prime Minister, will there always be a Canada? There will always be a Canada. All right, elbows up. Elbows up.
C'est une question qui ont des valeurs pour tous les Canadiens, des valeurs de compassion, des valeurs de la communauté, des valeurs de la miséricorde. Fundamentally, it's about what it means to be Canadian, and that's what's at stake. Are we coming together, or is it everyone for themselves? I prefer that we come together to build a better country.
She got
Ottawa, veuillez accueillir, please welcome to the stage, Diana Carney.
Ici la terre est noire, ici la pluie de noir. Raconte-moi qu'on puisse trembler ensemble. Ici le jour viendra.
Good evening, Canada. Bonsoir, Canada, et merci pour votre vote. I'm so grateful to you. Thank you for supporting your Liberal candidates. And thank you for choosing my husband's vision of a positive, unified, and above all, a strong country. Over the past few weeks, Mark and I have had the enormous privilege of meeting so many people across this great country. Everywhere we've visited, we've been energized by the passion, the commitment, and the kindness and belief that we have encountered, not to mention the beauty and diversity of this amazing country. As we've traced a path from winter into spring, through all this, I've watched my husband listen and learn. I've watched him inspire confidence and take on new skills. But most of all, I've seen him remain true to what he's always been: consistent, compassionate, loyal, and driven by an exceptionally strong set of values. He's thoughtful, respectful, and honest. And I think and hope that you now have come to appreciate that alongside his capacity for dealing with the most serious of matters, he has a great mind for trivia, a wicked sense of humor, and a wonderful smile. He's been that way since our very first date, back when we were young grad students, when we went to that dinner, and he said to me, he stopped the conversation, and he said to me, "I want you to know I'm committed to move back to Canada and to work in the public service." So here we are. As his partner, I could not be more proud of him. And as a Canadian, I'm so thankful that the man I met more than 30 years ago has held tight to that strong commitment to service. I'm lucky to have him. We're lucky to have him now more than ever. Without further ado, it's my great pleasure to introduce my husband, the Prime Minister who will make Canada strong and Canada for.
That is Nepean. That is the spirit of Nepean behind me right there. Thank you. Bonsoir tout le monde. Bonsoir. Oh, quel bonsoir. C'est un bon bonsoir. I have a question. Who's ready? Who's ready? Who's ready to stand up for Canada with me? And who's ready? Who's ready to build Canada strong? Okay. Avant de commencer, je voudrais féliciter les autres chefs de parti de leur campagne et de tout le travail qu'ils ont fait. Je les remercie pour leur service envers le Canada, maintenant et dans le futur. I want to thank the leaders of the other parties. I want to salute the contribution of Jagmeet Singh. I noticed his remarks. Leading on progressive values. Elizabeth May, who will be returning to Parliament. Yves-François Blanchet. And I want to congratulate Pierre Poilievre on a hard-fought, fair, good campaign, his commitment to the country that we both love. They all have many, many more contributions to our land. Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Diana, for your work on this campaign. Thank you, Diana, for the commitment and compassion you bring to everything that you do. Tonight simply would not have been possible without you and without the support of our 4 children who inspire me to service every single day. I also want to salute the women and men who put their name on the ballot from all parties. Thank you for standing up to serve our country at this critical time. And for those who were elected, particularly those Liberals who were elected, I am looking forward to working together to deliver for Canadians. This says, Bruce. And Bruce, yes, Bruce Vanjoy. I'm looking forward to working with Bruce Vanjoy. Fantastic. He will be a great MP. We're going to have fun tonight. Yes, we're going to have fun. Bien sûr, je tiens à remercier les milliers de bénévoles ici ce soir et à travers le pays qui ont donné de leur temps pour cogner au port, pour faire des appels, pour échanger avec leurs voisins et les membres de leur communauté, pour nous donner un gouvernement fort. Ouais, c'est ça. You know, I chose to enter politics because I felt we needed big changes in this country. But big changes guided by strong Canadian values. Values that I learned at the dinner table from my parents, Bob and Verley, and from my siblings. I appreciate this more in retrospect from my siblings. My siblings, Brenda, Sean, and Brian. Values that I learned on the ice from my coaches. Values that have been reinforced as I've met with Canadians across this great country. And those include 3 values that I want to highlight this evening. Humility. It's Canada after all. Ambition. It's Canada after all. And unity. It's Canada. I love you. Right back. Right back. These are good values. These are Canadian values. Values that I will do my best. I'm just getting worked up here. These are values that I will do my best to uphold every day as your Prime Minister. You betcha. Okay, well, you have to judge after this next section because I am going to begin with the value of humility. And by admitting that I have much to be humble about. That's true. Over my long... that's not an applause line, it's just a statement of fact. Over my long career, I have made many mistakes. And I will make more. But I commit to admitting them openly, to correcting them quickly, and always learning from them. You know, humility underscores the importance of governing as a team in cabinet and in caucus, and working constructively with all parties across Parliament, of working in partnership with the provinces and the territories, and with Indigenous peoples. And at this time, it underscores the value of bringing together labor, business, civil society, to advance the nation-building investments we need to transform our economy. Humility is also about recognizing that one of the responsibilities of government is to prepare for the worst, not hope for the best. As I've been warning for months, America wants our land, our resources, our water, our country. Never. But these are not idle threats. President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us. That will never ever happen. But we also must recognize the reality that our world has fundamentally changed. There is also, for me, as I stand before you this evening, humility in recognizing that, well, many have chosen to place your trust in me, trust in the Liberal Party. Millions of our fellow citizens preferred a different outcome. And my message to every Canadian is this: no matter where you live, no matter what language you speak, no matter how you voted, I will always do my best to represent everyone who calls Canada home. You know, during this short campaign, I went to Saskatchewan and Alberta a couple of times, even though, you know, we're Liberals. It's tough. It's tough out there. I grew up there. But I went because I intend to govern for all Canadians. And au cours de cette campagne, plusieurs Québécois et Québécoises m'ont ouvert leurs portes, m'ont accordé leur confiance. J'en suis profondément touché et je vous en remercie. La langue française, la culture québécoise, elles sont au cœur de l'identité canadienne. Elles définissent le pays que j'aime tant. Et je vais les défendre sans relâche. Avec la forte équipe de députés québécois que vous venez d'envoyer à Ottawa, nous allons faire en sorte que le Québec continue de prospérer au sein de Canada fort. Et que vous soyez un travailleur des sables bitumineux à Fort Mac, une infirmière de Joliette ou un comptable de Toronto. Il y a plusieurs comptables à Toronto. Mon gouvernement va travailler pour vous tous. So, as we come here after this most consequential election, let's put an end to the division and anger of the past. We are all Canadian, and my government will work for and with everyone. I began with humility, but Canadians are ambitious. And now, more than ever, it is a time for ambition. It is a time to be bold, to meet this crisis with overwhelming positive force of a united Canada. Because we are going to build, baby, build. Exactly. Throughout, we're building now. We've gotten over that bit. Throughout our history, there have been turning points. Throughout our history, there have been turning points when the world's fortunes were in the balance. That was the case at the start of the Second World War, just as it was at the end of the Cold War. And each time, Canada chose to step up, to assert ourselves as a free, sovereign, and ambitious nation, to lead the path of democracy and freedom, and, because we are Canadian, to do so with compassion and generosity. We are once again at one of those hinge moments of history. Our old relationship with the United States, a relationship based on steadily increasing integration, is over. The system of open global trade, anchored by the United States, a system that Canada has relied on since the Second World War, a system that, while not perfect, has helped deliver prosperity for a country for decades, is over. These are tragedies, but it's also our new reality. We are over the shock of the American betrayal, but we should never forget the lessons.
But you're going to take us forward.
We have to look out for ourselves, and above all, we have to take care of each other. When I sit down with President Trump, it will be to discuss the future economic and security relationship between two sovereign nations. And it will be with our full knowledge that we have many, many other options than the United States to build prosperity for all Canadians. Nous allons renforcer nos relations avec des partenaires fiables en Europe, en Asie et ailleurs. Et si les États-Unis ne veulent plus jouer un rôle de premier plan dans l'économie mondiale, le Canada leur fera. We will lead, not the Americans. Nous sommes maîtres chez nous. Nous allons bâtir des millions de logements, une superpuissance énergétique, de bonnes carrières dans les emplois spécialisés et une seule économie canadienne par 13. We will chart a new path forward because this is Canada and we decide what happens here. We will need to think big and act bigger. Your phone's ringing. Sorry, okay. All right. Just hang on. It's okay? Yeah. It might be important. I don't know. We will need to do things previously thought impossible at speeds we haven't seen in generations. It's time to build twice as many homes every year with an entirely new housing industry using Canadian technology, Canadian skilled workers, Canadian lumber. It's time to build new trade and energy corridors, working in partnership with the provinces, territories, and Indigenous peoples. It's time to build hundreds of thousands of not just good jobs, but good careers in the skilled trades. It's time to build Canada into an energy superpower in both clean and conventional energy. And it's time to build an industrial strategy that makes Canada more competitive while fighting climate change. We will build one Canadian economy, not 13, with a government committed to free trade in Canada by Canada Day. The point is that we can give ourselves far more than the Americans can ever take away. But even given that, I want to be clear. The coming days and months will be challenging, and they will call for some sacrifices. But we will share those sacrifices by supporting our workers and our businesses. Les défis devant nous sont intimidants, et c'est normal. Les grands changements, comme ceux que nous vivons, sont toujours inquiétants. Nous avons beaucoup de chemin à faire, mais j'ai confiance. J'ai confiance en vous. J'ai confiance au Canada. Because Canada is more than a nation. We are and we always will be a confederation, a sacred set of ideas and ideals built on practical foundations. That we know we're not always perfect, but we always strive to be good. We do things because they're right, not because they're easy. That we see kindness as a virtue, not as a weakness. Most importantly, we know that our strength lies in our resolve to work together as a country. It relies on our unity. You know, on the second day of this campaign, I went to Gander, where on 9/11, they welcomed thousands of passengers into their homes without question or hesitation. I sat down with two of the many heroes of the time, Diane Davis and Beulah Cooper. And during our conversation, they showed me a thank you card that they'd received from a young girl called Ellie, who wrote, "Your kindness motivates me to use my kindness." That touching phrase captures what Canadians instinctively know, that virtue is like a muscle that grows with its exercise. We become just by doing just acts, brave by doing brave acts. When we are kind, kindness grows. When we seek unity, unity grows. When we are Canadian, Canada grows. And united over our history, we have done hard, seemingly impossible things. United, we have built one nation in harsh conditions, despite a sometimes hostile neighbor. Yes, they have form on this, the Americans. United, we have confronted our own past with Indigenous peoples. Unis, nous avons bâti un pays qui rassemble des langues, des cultures et des croyances différentes. Unis, nous avons bâti des institutions culturelles essentielles comme CBC Radio-Canada. United, we have created universal public health care. And now, in the face of this crisis, united, we are buying Canadian. We are exploring everything this country has to offer. We are supporting our friends and neighbors in the crosshairs of President Trump through a crisis that we did not create. United, we will win this trade war and build the strongest economy in the G7, an economy that works for everyone. Au cours des derniers mois, les Canadiens et Canadiennes ont fait leur part, se sont rassemblés pour défendre notre pays et notre façon d'être. Je promets que, lorsque nous sommes menacés, nous allons nous battre. We will fight back with everything we have to get the best deal for Canada. We will protect our workers and businesses, and above all, we will build an independent future for our great country. A future that makes the greatest country on the earth even better. Together, we will build a Canada worthy of our values. We will build Canada strong, Canada free, Canada forever. Vive le Canada. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Dear guests, we know it's been a long night. We will ask for another 10 minutes of your patience while we reset the stage for our very special musical guest. Chers invités, nous savons que la soirée a été longue. Nous vous demandons de patienter 10 minutes pendant que nous préparons la scène pour nos invités spéciaux. À tout de suite.